Hello and welcome to the Last Word on Spurs. We are your multi-award winning Tottenham Hotspur podcast and we return on deadline day, which is for every Spurs fan out there, Monday. Listen, if you're with us for the first time, you can find us on iTunes, we're on Spotify, we're across all major audio platforms, we're of course on X, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook and we're on Blue Sky too. And we will be keeping you focused, we'll be keeping you updated with regards to where Tottenham are during this January transfer window on January transfer deadline day. Since we were last on air 10, 12 hours ago, there's been obviously a flurry of news coming through. No new signings coming through, but a flurry of news. I'm delighted to have back alongside me for this one and for a couple more during this time. Joined by the wonderful George Achille. George, thank you so much for coming back on. I know transfer deadline day is always you're not sure what you're going to expect, are you, George? I suppose in the Tottenham aspect, what are you expecting, if anything, George?
Yeah, I mean, well, usually it's probably our most active day of the year, but it's then down to the level of quality that you're bringing in, which I think we're all a bit unsure of that's going to happen. So, yeah, I don't know. I feel like we need at least one player in, whether that's now centre-back or forward, like at least. But we'll get all deep into it, but it should have been done a long time ago.
We will indeed. G, thank you so much. Also back alongside, we've put his brother down and picked the other brother up. We've got the wonderful Ash Matic over the Spurs Kings back. Ash, how are you? Lovely to see you.
Yes, bro, I'm good, man. Thanks for having me on. Big up the panel.
Pleasure.
And everyone in the chat, man. Let's get into it.
Bless you, Ash. Thank you so much for joining us. Like I say, Miles on a bit of a rest. He'll be back later at some point in the week. We've got Ash for now. God, we're swapping these two around like you don't know how at the moment. We love these boys very much. Also back on, look, he'll always tell it as it is, but it strictly transfers as to where we are in the next hour. We've got wonderful Johnny Hammy back. Football Links, Johnny Hammy. Johnny, how are you, mate? You okay?
All good, all good. Welcome back to lastminute.com.
Welcome back to the review section in Tesco's. This is where you get all your bargain buys, right?
100%. Middle aisle at Lidl. Let's grab it now. You've got 3 minutes. Grab your barrel and throw it in. It's good to be on with Ash and George. And let's get down and dirty and let's talk Tottenham PR.
Oh my God, I tell you, if we go to Tottenham PR, we might not ever get out of this bloody place, I tell you. Let's give you an update of where Tottenham are during this January transfer window. As we bring you our afternoon update, we'll be keeping you updated right until the window has closed. We understand, sources from this morning, that Tottenham have, launched a bid or tried to launch a bid for Mark Gahey of Crystal Palace. He's understood to have now become Tottenham's top target during this January transfer window. As you can imagine, Crystal Palace, who have got aspirations and ambitions of their own, do not want to sell on deadline day. And as things stand, a move for Mark Gahey is not going to go ahead. Palace are virtually certain of him staying, despite fresh attempts from Tottenham during the course of deadline day to revive a deal, having an offer rejected over the course of the evening. That news comes on the back of the fact that we are expecting bad news with regards to Radu Dragusin. We're expecting Radu to potentially miss the remainder of the season in what is a devastating blow to Tottenham in general, given their current injury crisis. We understand that Radu Dragusin is going to have a appointment later on the Monday with a specialist to understand the full extent of the damage to the injury he has suffered, but our understanding is that it's not looking good for Radu Dragusin. He could miss the full season, which is why Spurs are in a situation where they are looking in this market for another defender after, of course, completing the signing of Kevin Danso from that hijack of Wolves in the final remaining days of this window. We do understand, however, which I'm pleased to tell you, I'm delighted to tell you, that Tottenham look like they're not going to be moving ahead for the player of Axel Disasi of Chelsea. I think many of my feelings on Axel Disasi before he even came a target of Tottenham, and when he did become a target, I think many out there know my feelings on him. We understand Spurs have now pulled the plug and are walking away, but there will be a lot of Spurs fans out there that are really concerned that we've not only gone after a player that has turned us down, but the fact, from according to a number of sources, that we were insisting of trying to push the deal over the line. And given Tottenham's lack of transfer bins with Chelsea over the last 20, 25 years, I'd say it's fairly alarming that they wanted to potentially let Disasi go to Tottenham, which tells you anything right now about how much an alarm that would be. Sticking on the Chelsea subject, we understand Spurs did earlier point of the day try and launch a move for João Felix, and they were given short shrift by Chelsea on that. in this instance, Chelsea didn't want to sell to Premier League rival. How funny is that? Didn't want to sell to Premier League rival for Felix. We're more than happy to see Disasi go to Tottenham. Couldn't make it up. Tyrese Hall's one man. Keep an eye on him between now and the rest of the window. There's apparently some interest from Millwall. It may or may not go ahead, so keep an eye on that. And we also understand Tottenham, which may upset a lot of fans out there, have called their interest on Tyler Dibbling, a player that I know many fans were maybe excited to see in a Spurs shirt. Look, this can always change. It's deadline day. But our understanding for now is that Tottenham have called their interest on Tyler Dibbling. It feels there's a lot to get into, and we'll bring you more and more as the deadline does develop. But I'll start with you, G, if you don't mind. Let's start with the big news of the day, that Tottenham have tried an audacious move to bring, of course, the Crystal Palace captain to the football club in, of course, Mark Gahey. We understand that is likely to not go ahead. What does that mean to you, G, that we're trying to launch this move on deadline day, a player that has clearly been available all month? And it feels very much like a last-minute attempt for Daniel Levy to maybe get a price maybe that he wouldn't have got at the start of the window.
I don't know if it's the same with you guys, but I feel like I've seen this story about 1,000 times before.
How many
it's just
times?
ridiculous. I think, look, in terms of the actual player, yeah, 100% we need to be targeting someone like Gahey. I think that's the way we need to go. But come on, man. Even if supposedly we did offer it before the Danzo deal a couple of days ago, it's far too late for a player of his caliber to go in for a January window. We knew what the price tag was in the summer because Newcastle were after him. We had all January to try and get this done if we supposedly actually really wanted to get it done in January, which, yeah, I don't seem to buy. We've seen it too many times with like Dybala, Lautaro Martinez, Skriniar. I think there's been too many times there's a player, Bruno Fernandes, right at the end of the window. It seems to be around the 70 mil mark that we supposedly offered, and it doesn't happen. So, yeah, I don't buy it one bit.
Actually, need to bring you in on this. You know, a player that I think it seems very apparent that Spurs are now looking to bring to the football club. And this is on the back of the news that, as we know, as I mentioned earlier in the show, Dragoshin looks like he will be out for the remainder of the season. We'll get that news maybe a bit later on, or dare I say, into Tuesday and Wednesday, of how bad the extent of the injuries that he has suffered. But what's your feelings on this deadline day move for Mark Gahey, who at the present moment in time doesn't appear is going to go anywhere?
I said it before the last time I was on there. I was with Johnny, I was with Sean, and I said my frustration with the club, with the board, with Daniel Levy in particular, is that he focuses on one player for the whole of the window. Yeah. For our case, it was Moani. Then he went on to Tell, and there was no movement of any defender or anything else. And then all of a sudden, lastminute.com, we're trying to make bids for defenders who we knew we needed backup, because it went from we're looking at centre backs to we're looking at strikers to we're looking at wingers, back to now we're looking at centre backs. This club's so reactive as opposed to proactive. That is my overall feelings on this, and that's why we're in the trouble that we are now, because all of a sudden there has been an injury, a freak injury. It's not their fault. It happens. But if I've been planning, and I've been told we've been planning since November, I start to think, what was the planning? What I can't see it. I can't see any evidence. So for me, it's more of a frustration, and like people are rightful and to be very skeptical of this particular window and call it things like PR and they're just putting this out there to make it look like they're doing something, because there hasn't been any consistency throughout the whole window. And it's not the first time we've done something like this. Even back in the early 2000s, we always went for the players the last minute of the window. And so I remember Harry Redknapp was like waiting with his phone himself, waiting to see if there was any transfers being done, because they asked him at Sky Sports when he pulled up in his Range Rover, and they were like, Harry, any deals yet? Do you know what I mean? So it's not the first time. So that's the reason why we are built like this, is why a lot of Spurs fans do have this particular mentality that, you know, we just don't plan and we're just very reactive. And so coming back to your question on Mark Gray, on Radu Jakushin as well, it's like this link was there in the summer. Newcastle tried to make the bid. It never went through for Newcastle. So we tried to do a clever deal with 55 million. So even less than what they were asking Newcastle. I'm just... There's so many things that don't make sense. I can't articulate it well enough. It's
How,
just
how do you make it make sense to you? How can you make it make sense?
But listen, what it is for me, I'll be honest with you. It's like after a win, you're feeling a little bit positive. And then we do this. It's like we're trying to keep the mood positive, and then like you're just mashing up our week already. It's only Monday.
To be fair on this point, I mean, look, Ash, thank you so much on that. I mean, Jay, coming over to you, look, we knew Spurs needed defensive reinforcements from the point, as we know, that Romero and Van der Ven dropped down, and that was on December the 8th. So you could argue the club have had at least 3.5 weeks to try and plan accordingly for this transfer window in terms of what they want to do. And the reality is that, you know, there's been nothing to stop them from bidding for Mark Gahey at the start of the window. And I've got to be honest with you, I mean, I've had it confirmed to me from a very, very close source that this is a genuine bid that's gone in from Tottenham. But I can't help it. I mean, George said it at the top of this show. I've been here so many years and so many times with Tottenham. I go all the way back to Matinho on, I think, the final day where they were trying to get the papers over the line to bring Matinho in from, I believe it would have been Porto at the time for AVB. That I've come to a point now where really it's almost like they would turn around and say, well, we tried to prize away the Crystal Palace captain. We tried to prize him away. And it feels like we're going to have one of those kind of end to a windows where it's about what we tried to do and not what we did. And I think, just to be very, very clear, I think everyone on this deadline day, your hope and optimism is that Spurs are going to probably bring in another defender because we have got, obviously, Dragoshi now out long term. And I think the real emphasis, which appears to be dwindling at the moment and certainly cooling, is the need for a striker. We've got no Dominic Solanke. You've got Richarlison, with all due respect to him. Can you keep him fit? We've got a huge week for Tottenham to come in terms of those cups. Ash has just said it there. We've come off the back of a win where we want to feel a little bit positive. And then we've got this situation where it's a kind of mad trolley dash 24 hours. And I think we've come to a point where I think everybody knows that on deadline day, it's really, really hard to lure away top players. And I can just start with you, Johnny, on the potential move for Mark Gahey, what looks like a failure from Tottenham. Is it an ambitious attempt? Is it an audacious attempt? Is it a stupid attempt that on deadline day you go to Crystal Palace or just before that to get him? Because I will just say there are reports suggesting out there that Mark Gahey was a target for Tottenham before they did go after Kevin Danso. But if that's the case, why are we in a situation where it's getting down to the deadline? Why have we not tried to move for the player in the 3.5 weeks before we knew Van der Ven and Romero dropped down and planned this accordingly? What's your thoughts on it for you, Johnny?
The whole thing's laughable. It's a laughable PR exercise. This is amateur hour. Let's be serious, right? Okay. Barry Barnett, right, is sat in his bedroom 3 months ago with a list of players that's better than what Johan Lang has produced. You know, you can't. How can you be in a job where your only job is to watch players and plan? And the planning has been, we all know, all the YouTube streamers, just the casual fans could sit there and know what we needed. So I don't want to listen to some story about, you know, oh, this was always our plan. Danso was our plan and Gahey was our plan. It wasn't. What's he going to do? Is he going to roll out the minute the transfer window closes? Are we going to have a Johan Lang video about how he tells us, you know, it was a tricky window. It was hard to do deals. Well, everyone else seems to be doing deals. Everyone else seems to have a plan. You know, Villa got rid of him because he wasn't good enough. And they got a guy in Mochi who's doing deals left, right and centre, selling, buying. They're happening. Even Chelsea last year, when they said, who would want to go to Chelsea? Who would want to come to Spurs? Who would want to go to Chelsea last year when they were in that mess, that mire where they were in the table? And yet they all came. You pay the money, they will come. This is a scattergun approach. The planning is shambolic, absolutely shambolic. Mark Gahey is a class player. I remember watching him very, very young. And I know it's a big accolade, but for me at the time, he reminded me of a young Ledley King when I saw him. He's a really good quality player.
Yeah, very good player.
You know, whether or not they had the thoughts and, you know, in their mindset that Christian Romero was going to leave and Gahey was going to be his likely replacement. The age of 24 is a good age, you know, plenty of years behind him, captain material, so on and so forth. I can understand that. But that's the sort of thing you do now, right? Or in the summer. His contract expires 2026. So he's going to go in the summer because they're not going to allow that contract to run down with 1 year left to go. Everyone's going to be coming in for it. Everyone needs a quality centre back. And we will not be at the races. We won't be at the races because, you know, what's the draw of us? You know, unless we win the Europa League and we're in the Champions League, there's going to be no draw for us currently because we are, you know, a bit of an embarrassment. Let's be honest.
I feel like it's got Liverpool written all over it in the summer. To be honest,
I mean, listen, I rate him extremely highly, along with Tarek Mitchell there at Palace. And Oliver Glasner has done a fantastic job. I think he's improved his game, if anything. You know, I think he's scored 3 goals and a couple of assists this season, and even that's with his injuries. But come on, guys, you know, treat the Spurs fans with some respect. Stop with this, you know, releasing the information. We know how the club operates. Everyone does it. Agents do it. They release the news to the media. They dispel news in the media. They release news to the media. And this one, so timely. Oh, we tried. We tried. You know, oh, did you see it? I mean, listen, don't tell me you didn't wake up this morning, anyone who's in this room, and start seeing all the messages about Mark Gahey, Yao Felix, and this one and that one. We all saw it, okay? You're like, oh, hang on a minute. What? Just check. Oh, no, more PRBS, right?
I think
analytics.
Go on, Ash.
What happened to the data-led analytics?
Well, I can't. Yeah, so...
I think this is where there's a lot of frustration on this point. I will, Johnny, to get you come back in here. I think when you look at this window as a whole, look, can I just say to you, I don't know what Johan Langer's doing day to day. I have to say that, you know, we've had a lot of different sporting directors during their time here. You go back to the likes of Frank Arneson, Damien Kamoli, of course, two to mention. We have Paul Mitchell here as well. I have to say that, and this is a friend of the show, John Wenham, I hope John won't mind me saying this, that I find it highly astounding and utterly embarrassing that we have, in this last week of the window, it feels from the outside looking in, we've kind of targeted Chelsea's rejects or players Chelsea don't want. Yeah. And I think that kind of shows the kind of poor planning, the reactive rather than proactive nature of this transfer window so far. And Ash, you just hit the money on the head there. You know, we're meant to be having a data-led approach where we're identifying players that can come in and make a difference. Just to be clear, my criticism is that we're going after Mark Gahey. My criticism is that we're leaving it to the final day of the window to go for a player that people must think it's crazy that, do you not think Palace are going to need to get a replacement in? Do you think Palace are going to need to sign a replacement? What in their right mind would allow Palace to think, or would allow anyone to think that Tottenham would get that deal done and Palace would not want to bring a replacement in? When you've seen it in the previous summer window played out, how much they were so resolute by keeping away from Newcastle's grasp that Palace were refusing to sell. And then you go to Palace on the final day of the January transfer window, or the day before, if we're led to believe the reports that this was done or tried to submit a bid before Kevin Danso got over the line. You're wasting your time. It's utterly shambolic. It's embarrassing. It is honestly embarrassing. And this is the thing with Tottenham. You know, we sometimes go at them for showing a lack of ambition. I would not be having a go at the club for having a lack of ambition if that bid went in for Mark Gahey on the 1st of January. The problem is it's gone in on the 3rd of February, or allegedly a day before the end of the window. How much time does that give Palace to source a replacement? I mean, does that concern you, Ash, when you're looking at our overall strategy in this window from what we're seeing from the outside looking in? Yes, you can argue it is great. You've got a man there that wants to do deals under the radar in Johan Langer. But the problem is it doesn't feel there's any kind of direction, any kind of strategy, to go back to your point, on what we're trying to do. You look at the Disasi deal, for example. I don't understand that. I don't understand going after a player from reports out there that are insinuating the player has turned us down and we're still pushing. I mean, how much of a failure is this, Ash, looking at the recruitment team behind the scenes, the likes of Johan Langer there, that we understand has been very much leading the recruitment off the pitch for the football club in this last 6 months or so?
Yeah, no, it's a weird one because when under Paratici, we had like option A, option B, option C, option D, option E. Yep. You know, if one broke down, you would have another player coming through. Do you know what I mean? If option B wasn't available, then option C was available. Do you know what I mean? And so, you know, it was well thought out planning. And some of these links were pushed out earlier into the window, and almost like a strategy to kind of play each other or other clubs off each other, you know, say like we're not desperate because we're looking at this player and we're looking at this player as well. Do you know what I mean? So now the fact that you're going for the Disasi, and I'm looking at the scouting and thinking, what is it about him that they're seeing that fans aren't, that fits into our system? And look, I'm not going to go off the Danso. I know Danso also played in the back two and also in the back three. But Danso, in the transitions, 1v1, I have question marks. Do you understand? So even when we did get Dragusin in, Dragusin also came from a back three. And I had question marks about in the transition. So I'm like, how are you guys profiling players in terms of technical base, like technicality? Because I just worry. I mean, I saw a few clips. I see Chelsea fans begging, please take him, please. You know what I mean? I'm feeling mocked and offended. And you've already said they turned us down for a more elite player, and then we're trying to go for the other player, and they're like, oh, no. You can't have him. Do you know what I'm saying? You can't have this one, but you can have that one. Isn't that a red flag? I mean, what are we doing here? So I just don't understand the methodology behind it all. It doesn't make any sense. And it does worry you about Langer and the team as a whole. Because it feels like Levy's up to his old tricks in terms of how he's negotiating. And I thought the reason behind bringing Scott Munn was like another layer for Levy not to get involved, so he can concentrate on more commercial side of things, more business end of things. But I guess that was a lie again, because that's what I was led to believe when Munn first came.
Can I just tell you, Ash, where we're at, just as you're talking here, there's some breaking news from Tottenham Stadium X that's just come out. Saddle up. Beyonce returns. The 35-time Grammy Award winner has announced 4 shows in N17 as part of a Cowboy Carter World Tour. Tickets for all those shows will go on general sale Friday the 14th of February, 12 p.m. Isn't it great that, you know, we're doing this amazing work off the pitch? I mean, off the pitch in terms of the entertainment venue rather than the football club, I would say. It's just beggars belief how someone allows that message to go out on deadline day. When as fans, I think we're looking at the squad and thinking this needs significant reinvestment. Sorry to cut you there, Ash. Please come back in.
Yeah, no, that's fine. We all knew we needed, like, you see, when the window ended in the summer, we all knew we needed a left back option to help Udogie, for example. Udogie was on the left back, and we knew he was coming back from an operation, a thigh injury, right? We knew we needed a left-sided centre-back because Mickey van der Ven, the season before, had an injury. Do you know what I mean? He had a hamstring injury. And so we knew we needed cover on those two fronts alone. Even before the injury started, even before, you know, we started the season, that was 2 priorities that we needed, because we played such an aggressive high line that when we do lose the ball, we need players to run back. And we only had 1 game a week last season. This season, we've got 2 to 3 games a week. Do you know what I'm saying? So
potentially,
having twice the amount of load on those players wouldn't make sense to surely provide cover in those areas, left back, centre back. I know we already had the right side of centre back in Dragusin, and we've got Romero there. And then we had a few academy and youngster players coming in, because we actually bought Phillips from Blackburn. We didn't actually take him from the academy. So we had a number of options, and then Dorrington came through the academy. He had a number of options in that squad. But it just seems like now all of a sudden January's happened. We've had the injuries, like you said, from December, and it's like, what do we do now? I don't know. But I guarantee you, when it comes to Beyonce, what have you planning? You know
what's funny on this? I mean, there'll be many suggesting, George, on this point about reading the room, you know, to announce that on deadline day. Could not have waited 24, 48 hours. I mean, again, it's just a natural feeling that there's just such a, again, I use this word with all due respect when I say this, that there feels like a real indifference in terms of where the fans are and where the club are in terms of their priorities and getting stuff out there. And I think when we come to this point now, look, our understanding is, as things stands, that it does appear even on the forward front, there hasn't been much movement in the last 24, 48 hours on that. We do understand that in terms of there was a move trying to be in the offing for Tyler Dibbling, and we understand Tottenham now called that interest because they were put off by Southampton's demands of an astronomical fee. We're understood to be well in the excess of 55 million. Now, we do also understand Spurs have considered trying to get in these final hours of the transfer window. They've been looking at, to get over the line, they've looked at Leon Bailey and Noah Okafor, who are two players that Spurs are reportedly keen on bringing to the football club, although we understand that neither at the moment are being actively pursued ahead of the 11 p.m. deadline. I mean, George, how much of a failure will it be if we kind of look at the striking options at the moment if Tottenham do not bring a forward in by 11 p.m? And is it concerning you that there doesn't appear to be any links really to general forwards, given those two that I've mentioned there? I mean, you could say that Leon Bailey's a wide forward. You may mention Noah Okafor, again, is a forward-like player, but they're not two direct forwards. I mean, how concerning is that for you, George, that we haven't appeared to be making progress on that on this deadline day?
Look, it's been concerning for the whole window because it's such an important position for us. Because, like, how many times throughout the season we can complain in that, look, we may have, in terms of numbers available in the squad, we technically do have a lot of forwards, but a lot of them just don't fit the way we play, and we need to up the levels as well. And like we said all along, Richie can't be fit for the whole season. He can't be fit for more than 4 games usually. So now that we knew that Solanke's going to be out for a while, he needed the backup anyway. Andrew's been calling it from December before the window's even started, and we haven't even looked like we've been making any sort of move for a proper striker at all, whether we believe the Wissa links or not. So it's really damaging because, again, like, you look at those names. Look, the Dibbling one, I thought it was always going to be one that was going to be in the summer. Always going to wait to see if Southampton going to go down, which they will, to get a player like that. There's just no need for us to do it, especially when he's out for 5 more weeks as well. To sign someone like him for 70 million now, I don't think would make any sense at all. But, you know, looking at Leon Bailey, okay, he's a good player, but again, he is completely out of fit at Villa at the moment. He's barely getting a game time this season. I know he had a bit of injuries at the start of the year, but they've just now technically replaced him with Rashford, Asensio on loan for 6 months. So again, it just all seems to be players that are out of fit. Okafor failed in medical to Leipzig earlier in the month. And again, we're going to try and go for him again. Like, these aren't names that scream to me that we're really properly trying to bolster the attack for the style of football we play, if I'm being honest. So again, it all comes back around to, it seems like poor planning, last minute efforts, who's available that we can get on a 6-month loan, similar to Werner last year.
Yeah, I mean, just on that point as well, moving away from the forwards for just a second, we understand that Angel Gomez, a player that Spurs have eyed during this transfer window, he looks like he's going to stay at Lille for the rest of the season and will depart as a free agent in the summer. Tottenham are expected to be among a host of clubs who would like to sign him on a free. Surprise, surprise, I'm sure you won't be. I mean, we bring it around to that point, Johnny, where we're looking at the games that are coming up. We know it's an absolutely crucial week for the football club in terms of those respective cup competitions. You know, you argue there's not been a bigger week in Spurs' season, definitely today, and beyond that, maybe in the last few years. We've obviously got that cup semi-final against Liverpool on the Thursday. We then got Saturday, Aston Villa away in, again, a crucial FA Cup 4th round tie, where it feels a lot of these cup games now are pretty much our season here on the line. How much of a damning indictment would it be if Tottenham failed to get a forward in when Ange Postecoglou has consistently said before the window, Dominic Solanke needs help. He then loses Dominic Solanke and he says Tottenham are playing with fire. I think it comes to a point where, look, forget whether you are Ange in or Ange out. The reality is it does feel that we've now failed yet another manager who has specifically asked for, whether it be a certain player or a certain position or a certain target, and we have not delivered that. How unfair is that, again, on yet another Spurs manager? And I will just say this, that I have great sympathy for Ange Postecoglou. You know, I've been one of maybe his biggest critics in terms of the playing style, his approach to games, and credit to him, yesterday he did change it up. We got a result. But when you look back at a lot of those previous managers, all the way from Maurizio through to, I mean, maybe Nuno you would say as well, but Conte and Jose in particular, you have a situation with Mourinho where we know he wanted Milan Skriniar. He got Joe Rodon. You know, with Antonio Conte, he wanted Bastoni. He got Clement Longley. It just feels that every manager here does not get their first choice when it comes to the players thereafter. I mean, how much do you feel for Ange if we end this window later on tonight, 11 o'clock, and we don't get a forward in to at least try and help him?
Listen, we got a lot of injuries. I think that's the main crux of it. But I think we're focusing on the wrong thing. I think we should, all be happy that we have 50 Cent, the Rolling Stones, Beyonce, and I think if we focus on that and forget about the football, because this is what the club has become. Look, I'm just joking, obviously, but I'm not the greatest Ange fan. But this is laughable. But nothing's changed, guys. Come on, this isn't new. When we were linked with Trossard, what do we get? Dan Juma on loan. We've been down this road so many times before. And I remember, just before Ash was mentioning good old Harry. That's what transfer deadlines were about. Harry leaning out the window. What's going on, Harry? Oh, well, yeah, expecting a couple of players. Yeah.
Where I'd argue, Jay, on that point is that I just feel previously of Enoch, and this might upset a few people out there, that I felt maybe, and I'll just be very, very clear, in every window there's been under Enoch, in my opinion, I don't think we've ever done enough. I think we always leave a window, one short, two short. I can't ever say that I've come out of a window in Enoch's tenureship and ever felt like, right, we've done enough. That's just my personal opinion. But the feeling for me is that when you look at the previous years, under Harry, look, bar the Ryan Nelson and Louis Saha signing, there was feelings that I know the Van der Vaart was an opportunistic signing, but it does feel that if we went back to those days with the position that we'd be in, I thought we would have supported the manager more. I just feel we're at a point now, Jay, there is such a growing indifference between what is the priority with regards to on the pitch in relation to what is off the pitch. I mean, how can you have the audacity, right, on transfer deadline day, when every Tottenham fan I know out there I speak to is now expecting a defender and a forward to come through, that you announce bang on lunchtime, Beyonce's coming back? I mean, where is there a reading of the room there? Where is there any reading of the room? Yeah. And, what I don't understand is that they're fully aware now there's going to be this protest coming up, change for Tottenham, and I think a lot of Spurs fans, obviously, of course, are now going to get right behind this more than ever now. And I would think, in that moment, if you're looking to in some way try and calm the noise down, you would go out and support the manager. I am absolutely, or maybe I shouldn't be really, totally baffled and just stunned that there's absolutely no support for a manager that has had a squad that has been pretty much ripped apart in front of his eyes in terms of the injuries. And you've got different narratives as to why that's happened in terms of whether it's the manager's fault or whether it's with regards to, again, just a freak behind the scenes of the injuries. How can he not be supported? I find it absolutely stunned. And the thing is, we know who will carry the can for it. And Postecoglou will carry the can. And that's why I think we've come to a point now, and I've said this on a number of occasions, where I think the nature of where Tottenham are now, and any manager coming to this job, they would look and think, this is no longer workable conditions, Johnny. These are no longer working conditions.
Well, that's why it took 4 months to find a manager, because no one wanted to come. When you said you were going to announce the Spurs announcement, I thought it was a new bed sponsor because, Johan Lange could rest easy and go to sleep for the rest of the transfer window. It's actually beggars belief. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we have another Gregor Rasiak or someone like that.
We've come to a point, though, Jay. It's got to be something, hasn't it? I mean, whatever it is now, and listen, I'm not, again, maybe say, just bring a body in, but you've got to do something to support a manager who has cried out from the early part, as we know, of the, before the January transfer window opened, I need support. I need help.
I guess funny, they've just deleted the tweet, so I think she's pulled a hamstring as well, and we're looking for other options.
So they've removed it. They've removed it.
They've removed it.
Well, they haven't removed it because I just posted it. So I'm disappointed. I've tried to get my tickets while we were on the phone here because that obviously has taken precedent over the transfer window broadcast on Last Word on Spurs. Look, I think heads have got a role here. Look, I'm not Angie's bigger fan. But I think, they bought in Scott Munn.
Yep.
Who's Munn too clever. And he's bought in Lang.
But what are these people doing, though, Johnny? This is the argument. What are they doing? We don't really have any kind of direction or understanding as to what these people are doing. I think if people understood what they're actually doing, it'll be a difference. We're going to get a window wrap up in a couple of days' time if they will do a window wrap up, what are they going to say on that window wrap up? What are they going to say?
Well, I've got to say, without going into too much detail, what Ash mentioned before about the data, right? Because these guys have come in, right? And let's just say Fabio brought in Gabby, Steinson, Scalding, a team of people who knew exactly what they were doing. Rip up the academy, rebuild the academy, bring in 15 to 19-year-olds, concentrate on bringing top quality into the first team that were doing the job. He then appoints Mun, who undoes it, pisses everyone off. Off goes Gabby, off goes Steinson. All we've got left is Scalding and, Fabio lurking in the shadows. The data team who were there, who were brought in, this isn't a new thing. The data thing is not a new thing. It was working under Fabio, right? But what they were doing, they were identifying the players. And Fabio, as we were talking about before, is balancing all of them, juggling lots of players. Right now, this is not data-led. This is like opportunity. What opportunity is there for us out there right at the moment? This isn't how you operate at the high end, the top end of football. Brighton, Paul Barber, we've spoken about him before. He's a top director of football and he operates in a completely different manner. Everything is about succession. Yep. If you sell a player, what is your plans for the next player, for this player, for the manager? We don't have that. We didn't even have a plan when we got rid of Conte, when he went. 4 months to find someone. It's a shit show. And Mun and Land, as I said, have undone everything. And instead of finding players, I believe what they're probably doing is finding players and then running the data on those players. Why have they got rid of eyes on the ground? I understand you need data, but along with data, you need eyes.
David Pleat said it on here. David Pleat said it on this show.
Yeah. I listened to a lot. Unfortunately, I missed that one. But eyes and data combined make success. Because also, it's eyes, it's data, and it's getting inside the player's head. What sort of personality is he? If Steve Hitchin looked at Ndombele's history and personality and his mindset, he would never have signed him. And there are other players like that. There's a lot of things you have to look at in a transfer. And to suddenly go in for, Danso because he had a heart problem and he got rejected by Roma and then Wolves were coming in. And then, the guy at the Swiss striker, he just smacks of desperation. We should not be desperate. Tottenham should be a club where Spurs are in for me.
That's, wow. Yeah, 100%.
That's how it should be. Now,
100%.
Like, no thanks.
I think there's a really crucial point you make there with regards to that. And George Bannister, really friend of the show. George, lovely to see you. George says here, just to bring this into context, that Lang has effectively told the data team to now only collect data on players he's identified, not to use data to identify it. It's a circus at the moment. That's from George Ban, really good friend of the show. And George is...
I couldn't say that before. So, George, thank you for saying that.
George, thank you for... George, thank you.
I couldn't actually say it, so I'm glad you did. That's the truth. 100%.
Well, let's be very clear. We bring Ash from that point again. I will reiterate that point. Lang has effectively told the data team to not only collect data on players he's identified, not to use data to identify it. It's a circus at the moment. Look, we're going to go for our break quickly for our listeners already of that circus. We've got over 7,000 of you that are watching the show live. Thank you so much, as always, for incredible support for Last Word on Spurs. We're going to ask you to hit like, hit subscribe, get this shout out to a wide range Spurs audience. I'm joined by the brilliant George Achillia. George, thank you so much. I'm joined by Johnny Hammy. I'm joined by Ash Mathys from the Spurs Kings. You'll see these guys during parts of this transfer window of today. We've got Paul O'Keefe later on this evening. Paul, I think, will give us a calm debrief of where we are as a football club. I'm sure Paul will calmly tell us where things are at. We've obviously got a lot of shows going on through the day. So please, like I say, keep liking, keep subscribing, keep in tune with what's going on here. Just to say that big news again, we told at the top of this show, just to give you a recap of where we are for those that missed it coming into the show. We understand Tottenham have launched on deadline day a bid for Mark Gahey. That bid has failed as things stands. Crystal Palace are not looking to sell Mark Gahey on this deadline day. We understand Spurs' offer was around the £55 million mark, which would lead up to £70 million in all on add-ons. At the moment, Palace refusing to sell and Spurs' search for a defender rolls on. That comes off the back of the news. We understand that Radu Dragusin is expected to miss the majority of the season. He is expected to be going to see a specialist later on the Monday. We'll bring you any further updates we get on Radu Dragusin, but we understand he's likely to miss the remainder of the season. Obviously, a lot in these last few days have been about forward targets, what are Tottenham going to do. They, of course, were rejected by Mathys only a few days ago. That was also followed by another rejection of Tomori as well. Communicated to Tottenham he does not want to join the football club. That led Spurs into a frantic search for a defender. They got one over the line. Kevin Danso, third time of asking, said, yes, I will come. And he's coming to win trophies, he tells us. Anyone going to tell him? We'll ask him after this next week if that can be true. We also understand Spurs have pulled out of a move for Chelsea defender Disasi, Axel Disasi, that is not going ahead. And reports this morning indicated that Chelsea also, at this moment in time, are refusing to sell Felix to Tottenham, João Felix, because they're a Premier League rival, but we're more than happy to let Disasi go to Tottenham. Make that make sense if you can. Tyrese Hall, one that we expect to remain as a Tottenham player on this deadline day. There has been interest from Millwall, but he looks like he's going to remain as a Tottenham player. We also understand there's been a cooling of interest from Tottenham on Tyler Dibbling after Southampton looking at a fee of around the £55 million mark. We also understand moves for Leon Bailey and Noah Okafor. Whilst they've been looked at this window, at the moment, they are not being pursued. We have got 11 p.m. to be counting down for in terms of this deadline day. I suppose the final question I want to ask you all guys really to finish on this particular point is, if this is what Tottenham have got left in terms of the window, what do you think, based on what we've got, is the ambition? I mean, Ash, I'll come to you. We've got two absolutely massive cup games for the football club this week. Can the squad cope with what we've got? And do you think we can still have a successful season if this is it?
It's clear to see from my eyes what's happening. They're giving Ange obviously the cups. And then they're hoping that, you know, some results can get a little bit better. They make the decision in the summer. It's as simple as that. And they want to be made to look that they're trying their best to get these players over the line. That actual bid that went in for Mark Gahey wasn't today. Apparently it was before Danso came in. So
that's right. Yes, that's what we're being told. Yes. Yeah, that's so correct.
So that tells me everything I need to know. Do you know what I mean? They're not really. They knew even if they made that bid, it wasn't going to be enough time for Crystal Palace to find a reputable backup to replace, Gahey. And so when they're doing things, it reminds me when Arsenal bidded for Suarez and they put a bid down, and then the second bid they put in, or the final bid
extra pound.
Yeah, an extra pound. You know, we tried. Can't say we never did it. Do you know what I mean? That's what it feels like. It smells of that. So, you already said it in the middle of the show that, you know, they announced Beyonce,
which they've since now removed that. They've now removed the post of Beyonce.
Like, oh, whoopsie. Do you know what I mean? So they've already shown their face. Do you know what I mean? So the reaction was like, oh, maybe that's not the best thing to do. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you've got non-football people running the show. And like, it was funny because Liverpool have moved above us. And I remember when we had Damien Comoli and we had Michael Edwards, and they went to Liverpool because they had enough of what we were doing.
Definitely. We obviously had Comoli. I think Michael Edwards was one that I think Spurs may have looked to bring in. But I mean, certainly on Comoli, just to make that point that you say, Ash, I think in the early days of Spurs hiring these sporting directors, I think what I would say in comparison to Langer, what I've seen so far, I could see a strategy in terms of what these sporting directors were trying to do. And with regards to Langer, I think there's been certain concerns of him because there's this thing that at Villa, he was almost demoted to really bringing in more of the kids rather than the kind of established stars. And look, don't get me wrong, I think we all agree Bergvall, Gray are going to be great signings for the future. But if you don't sprinkle that, Ash, with a few experienced players, which to be fair, Danzo might be one of a few, then how are we ever going to succeed? And I think that is where there's a lot of questions around Johan Langer's position right now. And I will make that point again. Friend of the show, John Wenham, actually put this on X earlier in the day, that I find it highly embarrassing that we're going to Chelsea on their reject shelf or their yellow labels in Tesco on their aisle, and we're trying to see what they've got left for us in the last week. I mean, we've not done business with Chelsea in the last 20, 25 years when you go back to Carlo Cudicini and Neil Sullivan. We're at a point where this is Anne's mad. We agreed a deal for Disasi, who we understand turned Tottenham down, and yet we were still insisting to try and get that deal done, and have only walked away on deadline day. I think that would concern a lot of fans that we're even operating or trying to be in that environment to operate. I think that would be the worry, Ash, for a lot of fans out there.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. I was just going to say, like, a lot of people have walked out of the club, gone on to other things, and done extremely well. Do you know what I mean? And that just says that the setup here there's something not right there. Do you know what I mean? And I thought we were bringing in sporting directors to push on, to move forward, but it just feels like we're going in the opposite direction. And as you said before, he was brought in, and then he was moved out of the position when Emery came in. Emery realized that, there's better sporting directors that he's worked with before, and Langer's not up to scratch, and he brought Munchie in. And then all of a sudden, Emery got Aston Villa where they needed to be, and then in the summer they pushed on. Whereas I feel like we've got Langer in 2023. The summer's come in now. We finished 5th, but then we've gone backwards. It's like, there's so many things just that aren't really making sense, but are making sense. It's not good enough.
I think that's the problem. Yeah,
and I don't like to point fingers, but it's who's hiring these people. You know.
I just wonder on that point, Johnny. I think you've definitely, again, on this show as well, me and you have spoken obviously before, again, a lot behind Last Word on Spurs, that we had massive reservations with regards to the sporting director role that Johan Langer is having at the moment. Do you feel that, depending on how this next few hours goes, do you feel that it is untenable if we end this window without any kind of support for Ange Postecoglou? Because again, I will make that point. Whatever people think of Ange out there, whether you want him to be the manager or don't want him to be the manager, for a man that has called for help consistently throughout the window, we come to a point where it's our worst injury crisis, where it's been abundantly clear we've tried to get forward. You've had a situation where you've had the sporting director and the chairman of the football club fly out to another country in Germany and not bring that player back. And it'd be played out so publicly how we're accelerating talks for Tell, and you don't get that done, and you don't bring a forward in. How can there not be accountability for these people at the football club when their roles and positions are to improve what we had? And I understand that their hands have been tied to some degree because of the Paratici ban, although he can operate as a consultant. There's obviously clear restrictions on what he can and what he can't do. But what I will say is that I just feel with Langer at the moment, Langer at the wheel, as that's a term of phrase, I'm not sure where he's driving us. I'm worried that we're driving into a ditch at the moment. I mean, do you see anything to show you in these next few hours we're going to do anything by deleting more posts about potential concerts that might be confirmed?
Listen, all I know is, as a fan, I was excited when Fabio was there. He showed passion. We saw him on the bench getting excited in the games. Like you think he was the coach. He was bringing in players that were exciting, whether it be Papasar or Romero or Vicario or, the list, or Destiny. The list is endless. We were going places, okay? And then the ban happened. And what he's done, he's brought in Scott Munn, who isn't a football person. He was in the Olympics and what have you. He's not top draw. I don't think he understands, who we are as a club and what it's, and he's tried to restructure everything. If it ain't broke, don't try and fix it. When finally, for the first time since Steve Hitchin, we were actually going in the right direction.
But would you argue, Johnny, their hands have been tied to some degree because he's been banned? Should there have been? And when I say that point, what I mean by that is that he's been banned. Should there not have been more of a plan in place to have somebody in the ilk of a Paratici that can operate? And look, I understand it's difficult with certain directors out there, but I think from what we've seen with Johan Lang at the moment, I saw Villa fans celebrating when he left that football club to come to Tottenham. And here we are. I don't know the guy personally. Again, I can only go by what the deals Tottenham have done. He seems very good at terms of under the radar, getting deals done very quietly on more of the younger players. But when it comes to giving Ange, in my opinion, what he needs now is a few experienced heads. And yes, we've got Kevin Danso through the door. I have not been impressed by the way we're operating. And especially in this last few days of the window, when we're going to Chelsea and we're trying to prize away, with no disrespect, in Disasi, in my opinion, one of their worst players, and the players rejected us, and we're still going back for him. I mean, that is where I think a lot of fans will raise alarm bells thinking, what is going on with the recruitment at this football club? And here we are, again, less than 7-8 hours away from the window closing. We've tried to go for Mark Gahey. Again, I made that point of Mark Gahey. Good, ambitious move for Mark Gahey. Should have come on day 1 of January, not on day, if it was 30, 29, the 1st, the 2nd. How are Palace meant to get in a replacement? And I feel a lot of Tottenham fans will feel out there that Ange Postecoglou is one of a number of managers in the long line that has been once again failed by the hierarchy in not being given the tools that he needs to succeed at a point where we find ourselves in our worst injury crisis ever.
Well, listen, look, Mun's getting away scot-free here. Let's not beat around the bush, right? Mun's come in, okay? Gabonini's left, right, who was doing a fantastic job. He was running 2 clubs, Udinese and Watford. He was doing 2 clubs, right? That's how much confidence they had in him. But he left to come to Spurs. Gabby's left. Steinson's left, right? The scouts have all left or been sacked by Mun, okay? The data thing, you heard the guy say, right? That's the God's truth. Where before we were identifying players in positions that we needed and the data team came up with them, then it was up to Fabio and the team's job to secure the top one of those that come out. And what we're doing now is he's going to the data guys. Here's my 4 players. These are who I want. Run the data on them. That's not how you do it. That's not how you do it. And look what we've got because of it. I'm not being funny, but I don't rate a lot of the signings. How do you sign Timo Werner twice? How do you sign Brennan Johnson for 47 million after getting rid of Harry Kane? Come on, guys, right? This we've been going downhill, as Ash said. It's a slowly going backwards, right? Yes, we've had injuries, but this is a bigger picture. But to say that it's not Lang's fault and all the rest of it, and it's Levy. Yes, it's Levy, but Levy appointed Mun, who appointed Lang, who got rid of this, who got rid of that. It's a catalogue. It's not one thing, but it's like a dominoes effect. And what I don't understand is when the club are finally in a good place, acquiring players. Hey, look at this. We're buying players that we bought for X and are worth more money. Yeah, right? Paying 15 million for Destiny, paying 12 million for Papa Sarr, not paying a fortune for Vicario. Hey, look at this. Look at what we're doing. Not paying ridiculous sums of money. Yes, we made some mistakes. Yes, we bought Brian Gill and we bought Richie, who hasn't worked out. But on the whole, if you look at it on the whole, it was far better than what we were doing under Steve Hitchin and the crew for the previous years. And not to mention the amount of kids that were brought in to the academy, restructured the academy, making Fabio making Levy understand that unless he paid the money of the academy kids, they ain't signing. Romain Mundell left, and they knew that unless they did something, they were going to leave. And he addressed that. And it's all been undone. For what? We're standing here on the midnight out of the transfer window. We've got Danso, who I don't believe was a long-term target. If it's a long-term target and you're watching us lose game, you sort that out day 1 of the transfer window. We shouldn't be in this position. And anyone who thinks that, who wants to make excuses for it, I'm sorry, I've got no time for it. The rest of it is just a PR exercise. If you came out with a real signing, I don't remember at this club since Rafa van der Vaart jumping up and down about a signing,
Probably before that, Jurgen Klinsmann. It's not even in their tenureship.
Yeah, I mean, give the fans an Eze, give the fans, a top player to get excited about. Really, real player, not a PR exercise.
Yeah, I mean, just on this point, George, to close with you on this, I mean. It does feel there's got to be some accountability after this window, because the reality is that I know you've really championed Ange all the way, and you've. Mm-hmm. I think for you, only said again, I think you're saying yourself, you're at a point now you just want to get behind somebody and give this a go and not keep ripping up an 18-month cycle. At what point do you look at the continual failures under the managers and just feel like they haven't had the necessary backing to succeed. And where we are right now for a man, again, I'll make that point, called for help. He lost Romero and Van der Ven on the 8th of December. He lost Ben Davies 3 days later. He's made it very, very clear that Dominic Solanke needs help before, during, and since really that window has opened. I mean, it's beggars belief in the children we find ourselves in. I mean, make it make sense. Although I am receiving news now. Oh, God.
Cancelled.
We're receiving news coming through that Mathys Tell is on his way to Tottenham. Everyone keep calm. We are receiving news coming through to us here. Sorry, this is from Florian Plettenberg. As Florian Plettenberg, as it's breaking right now, that Mathys Tell is on his way to Tottenham. He wants to join Spurs, and that is the breaking news.
Was this April 1st, actually?
We was about to conclude, but I'm not sure we can conclude. We were,
Are you going to say
this is breaking news from Florian Plettenberg. Tottenham Hotspur are, at the moment, looking to complete the signing of Mathys Tell. He is on his way to Tottenham. He wants to join Spurs, despite only 3 days ago, Daniel Levy and Johan Langer, who are on a flight to Germany to go and get his signature. That failed, and we now understand Spurs are looking to complete that signing of Mathys Tell before the end of this transfer window. What a
this is actually, I don't believe it.
What a crazy show. We'll ask George. George, you got 5 minutes to kind of summarise on this player? Is that okay? Have you got 5, George?
Yeah, I do.
So what are we making of this news? Breaking, I would say, absolutely breaking news.
No, if I'm being completely honest, I think this would be an unbelievable signing. And I said it from the start as well, as soon as we were linked, because I think it's quite rare that you get he's obviously young, being 19 years old, but it's rare that you get a young player like this that actually has an abundance of talent at a club like Bayern, and he's made available. So I know, a lot of times people will say, yeah, this was opportunistic in the sense that we had to wait for him to decide that he wanted to leave Bayern for anything to happen for any club. But when you see the likes of the fact that supposedly, Arsenal, Liverpool, Chelsea, Man United, all these Villa, all these clubs wanted him. He is no doubt a top player that I think is just completely out of favour at Bayern under company, especially with, he's not going to get ahead of Kane as a striker. He's currently not getting ahead of the likes of Gnabry, Coman, Sane. There's a lot of wingers there as well. So I think he just wants to play football. So I think it's a great signing. I just don't understand how it went from being I don't want to speak to Spurs because I'm waiting to see Man United and Arsenal. And now all of a sudden he wants to join Spurs. It's very confusing.
I think on this point, if I can, coming around to you, Ash, this news that is breaking to us, and it's been reported again by Florian Plettenberg. And I will just tell you right now, we've had the here we go from Fabrizio Romano on this is how quick it's breaking here. Mathys Tell, here we go. Straight loan, no buy option clause. Tottenham have got him until the end of the season, Mathys Tell. Give me your reaction to that, Ash. This is being confirmed right now. Thoughts on it for you?
I would just like to say on behalf of the last word on Spurs, well done, boys. It was a great stream. We rattled the club.
They were listening.
We always knew it.
Well, they deleted the Beyonce tweeters from here and done Mathys Tell. Maybe we should just stay online and see if we can force any more through, Edge. Tell me your thoughts on that move.
I think they were listening to Johnny's wise words.
100%. Johnny, keep throwing names at them. Yeah, quickly. Ash, go for it. Tell us your thoughts on Mathys Tell being a Tottenham player.
I can't believe it. I mean, listen, he's coming on loan, but I'd like to thank Beyonce for swinging it, because 50 Cent had him on the edge, but Beyonce was the clinch, right? That was the clinch. Listen, no option. We've got a job to sell. Listen, look, let's be honest. Let's hope he can score a goal because he hasn't scored one this season. So let's not get too excited. We'd be happy right now for geriatric or Carlos Kickleball, but this guy was a top talent. Hasn't lived up to that talent this season, but I'm hoping he comes to the club, and actually does the business. And I wonder if all the Spurs fans are now going to be wearing bandages on their hands.
I have to make this point, actually, I've got to say. George, coming round to you on this point, how concerned would you be? Again, it's not to bring... I mean, listen, I'm not bringing it down on it here, but a player that it feels publicly rejected Tottenham.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about that when Ange Postecoglou has said, I only want players that want to be here, and Tottenham have got him on deadline day? What's your feeling on that, George? Because Ange is a certain man that, as we know, has got certain standards, and I just wonder what his reaction will be to the fact that we've brought somebody in that, with all due respect, has turned Tottenham down. I mean, does that concern you? We're at a point now, George, where we are in desperate territory now with hours to go. And is it just a case of getting the player in, and if he scores a couple of goals, that will be forgotten?
Yeah, look, I think it's like you said, we're thinking about it, because there's no buy option and whatnot. I think it does feel like almost like a panic part 2, in the sense of, we obviously wanted him originally. We wanted to sign him. Okay, great. Didn't work out. By their own fault, it's now been left far, far, far too late, and we're on deadline day now. But I do think, out of the options that you probably could get on deadline day, this is probably the best player we could get, because you're not going to sign an Mbeumo on deadline day. We're not going to sign a Cunha on deadline day, especially since he signed another deal with a release clause for the summer. So I think of the players that we could get by our own fault for leaving it this late, I think he's probably the best we can get. So look, I'll take the loan, the loan for now, and either he's good enough and we convince to buy him in the summer, or it allows us to buy a more specialised and better player in the summer. But yeah, it does feel a little bit panic stations of, we tried to buy you, you said you just wanted a loan because you might want to go back to buying in the summer, and we've kind of just given up to that, if that makes it, like we've kind of just let him have his way in a sense. But look,
I can just say, George, as you're talking here, look, we've had a crazy last half hour, and bring George back in. We've gone from Beyonce to Tell what a day of being a Tottenham fan. The extra news we're hearing is that Mathys Tell will be joining Tottenham. This is from Tanzilic. The striker was seduced by the new approach of the Spurs hierarchy and will commit today. Daniel Levy pushed until the end and managed to convince the striker. Whether Tell to Spurs will be a straight loan or a transfer is still in discussions, more likely a loan at this stage. What seems very, very clear is that Daniel Levy has personally driven this through to get Mathys Tell to Tottenham. And obviously, again, it emphasises the point how much we need a forward, George. So, I mean, again, is it a case that if he comes in, he scores goals, that the talk about whether he wants to be a long-term or not is forgotten about if he puts the ball in the back of the net for these cup games we've got, of course?
No, yeah, I mean, look, like we said, we needed a forward in. So I think it's definitely a positive in that sense. And I think as well, look, as much as we can say that he technically rejected us, I think as well you've got to think that they never would have taken the conversation in the first place if he wasn't somewhat interested, which is somewhat of a positive sign. And I think, look, I think he clearly was just weighing up his options as well, seeing if Man United were truly going to come in. Rumours that Garnacho needed to leave to fund that sort of move for him to go to Man United. That's not looking like it's happening. So, look, I think he's just clearly weighed up his options, was left out of the squad for Bayern Munich on Saturday, I believe, and clearly sees no future this season at Bayern Munich. So, thinks that Spurs is better than nothing, which, listen, I think we just have to take what we can get at the moment. So I don't think it's necessarily he didn't want to come to Spurs at all. It's just naturally there probably were some other outfits that he would have preferred in better positions right now. But clearly none of them have gone for him, and he said, look, Spurs is a better option than wasting away on the bench and then Bayern Munich. So
yeah, well, I mean, it's interesting on this point. I will just say also on this breaking news of deadline day, West Ham have completed the loan signing for Evan Ferguson. That is a done deal. I mean, Ash, just on Tell, if we can, I mean, loaning a teenager who rejected to join us permanently, who hasn't scored in 4 months, for some out there might not seem like the greatest idea, but we have to hope, back to Johnny's point, he can make an impact straight away. Ash, how confident are you, Ash, we can get an impact from a player that will hopefully, prove to us why he deserves to wear that Tottenham shirt with such pride?
Context is key, guys. 8 games, 2 starts. 8 games, 2 starts.
Yep.
Last season, he had many more starts and he had many more goals in that Bayern Munich shirt. And remember, he is going against, I don't know, someone called Harry Kane? Maybe. I don't know. So it is understandable why he hasn't had many starts, how he hasn't had many games. Also, I do know he's playing from the left. There's competition with Gnabry and Coman on the left as well. And they've obviously got Elise on the other side because he can play both wings, left, right wing. up front as well. I see him more coming off the left as his better position because he is, I'd say, he is both-footed. I'd say he's both-footed. I know he's right-footed predominantly, but his weaker foot, he's very strong on. And in front of goal, I think out of our forwards, we're looking at Timo Werner. He's definitely an upgrade on that in terms of goal threat. He's definitely going to give us that. So yeah, he's definitely an upgrade on what we do have. He is like, if I look at his body frame, he's quite languid, quite tall, quite long. And he can beat a man as well. He can go on the outside, can go on the inside. He's a very, very interesting prospect because Chelsea were pushing really hard. We need to remember that, guys. We are 14th. Be humble. 14th.
Yeah.
Chelsea were pushing for him. Manchester United were pushing for him. Yeah, hard. Arsenal were looking at him as well. So I'm just saying it's not a bad option. I know he hasn't scored that many, but I'm putting into context that this season, for whatever reason, Company hasn't really fancied him. And it's down to him now, if he is given the game time, for him as a young man, 19 years old, a real high ceiling in that, for him to prove himself that he can be that guy at this level. So
it has been an absolute crazy hour here. We're going to say we're going to try and stay on for a little bit longer. I know, Ash, you got a bit of time to stay on for a bit longer. Are you okay to stay on a bit longer, Ash? Yeah, we've got Jeter around 2:30. Johnny will be here till about 8:00. He's got. Can I just say, Johnny's leaving us for a night with Teddy Sheringham later on. I'm not sure he'll get there on time, but we will let him go later on.
Put Teddy on the back burner.
For Mathys Tell, I played in Wallace 4 days ago. I got to say, guys, there's over nearly 10,000 of you that are watching us live. Thank you so much for your incredible support for the show. Just so you know, for those that started this stream that have found us now and thought, what's going on? Just to be clear, an hour ago, Tottenham put out that Beyonce was coming for 4 dates. They quickly retracted that. And in that time, Daniel Levy's made a dash to get Tell to Tottenham. And I will tell you more that at the moment where we are with Mathys Tell, we have got the Here We Go. It is a bomber for those out there. We'll get Paul O'Keefe's take on this later with a bomber it is. That there's many out there, including a lot of my friends out there. Wonderful Jerry Brown at the Daily Hotspur is currently trying to recover the video compilations of Mathys Tell and what he does bring. I think really important that Ash made that context of what he said there is that despite not scoring at all this season, I think it's 8 appearances and only 2 starts. At the moment, we understand there are... Thank you so much, Ash, for that. I think there's ongoing talks right now as to whether this will be a simple loan or transfer, which is still in discussions. And quite interestingly, we're hearing from Kerry Hall, Sky reporter, that it will be down to the player to potentially choose whether it's a loan or a transfer. Quite interestingly, again, a player that I think you go back and look at Spurs had interest in, dating back to when they sold Harry Kane to Bayern, a player we understand Spurs were fairly keen if they could to bring in on a loan basis. That didn't materialise. We now understand, as we've discussed, that this has now re-emerged that he was the top target for Tottenham in the last week of the transfer window. And Spurs are determined, and Daniel Levy's determined, to push it through and get their man. And here we have discussing the fact that Daniel Levy has needed to go and get Ange Postecoglou a striker. Dominic Solanke is out for what we're led to believe to be a further 4 weeks. He would be a doubt if Tottenham get there for the Carabao Cup final. There are many out there, I can just tell you on social media, that do feel this is absolute desperate for us and a player that is using us for a stepping stone. But I just go back to that question, Johnny, that does it matter if this player comes in and he contributes to Spurs winning a trophy, which will be their first for 17, 18 years? Would we care if he doesn't commit permanently and he gets Tottenham a couple of trophies?
Spurs fans are fickle, whether it's Spurs fans, United fans, or Arsenal fans. If he comes in and bangs in a winning goal, he'll be a hero. No one will give a damn, right? It's like the result. You win 1-0, you get a lucky deflection. No one cares. When history will look back and look at it as a 1-0 win. Look, for context, he scored goals last season, Mathys Tell. And again, when I dived into that, I looked at the fact that he was coming on in a lot of games when, Bayern were 3-0 up and, it was easy for him. cat who's just.
I'm going to say, as
clinging on to dear life right now.
As we're talking on that point, I just say we're hearing some news coming through. Spurs head coach Ange Postecoglou has had a long conversation with Mathys Tel to present his ideas and how he's going to use him. Tel, after having that conversation with Ange, has changed his mind and decided to join Tottenham. That's been reported by Amir Sanmia, Bayern in Germany, that news. And I can tell you right now that there's an image coming through which we'll share later on, courtesy of Fabrizio Romano. I can tell you Mathys Tel is on the flight. He is on the flight. He is on his way to London to sign for Tottenham Hotspur. Fabrizio Romano confirming simple loan, no option, no obligation to buy. And now it goes from the Andrews is real. Just been an absolute crazy last hour here where we're talking about the need of Tottenham signing a striker. They've gone back for Tel. Tel's had a conversation with Ange. Ange has picked up the phone, and we now understand that Tottenham have broadly agreed a deal to sign Mathys Tel on loan, although the exact structure of the deal is still to be finalised. I mean, God, it wouldn't be Tottenham, would it? Wouldn't be Tottenham if we weren't taken right to the last minute. I mean, I can't remember too many deadline days like this. Dare I say, you go back to maybe last-minute signings. I can't put it in a Van der Vaart bracket because, with all due respect, Van der Vaart was a proven player that I think many could look at that time and say, this guy is quality. I think for Tel, it's a player of potential, but I think the big concern for a lot of Spurs fans will be out there is, again, back to that point as we've discussed, he did reject us once. Daniel Levy and Johan Langer privately thrown out to Germany, tried to get the deal done, didn't happen. I suppose this is the nature of the window, isn't it, Ash? If players don't get teams come in for them like this, the player's desperate to play. He's had a chat around Postecoglou, and he feels this is the right move. Do you think the fans will get behind him, Ash, when it comes to when he does join the football club eventually, if he does get on the line, doesn't get hijacked, he will get that support from the fan base?
It's as simple as this. If he scores a goal, if he does like a little skill pirouette, players will love it. Fans will love it. They will love the player if he comes and he does the job. That's all we care about at the moment. Like, we've been lacking that cutting edge, that killer in front of goal. And as I said before, he has a number of suitors that were after him. In terms of his potential and his ceiling, I know people hate those type of words. People are looking at him as possibly a replacement for Son in the near, not distant future if things go well. So whether he wants to stay with us or sees us as a stepping stone, we'll have to wait and see and wait until we cross that bridge. But at this moment, this kid he does have it. And I think he suits our particular system the best because he can play across the front three. Yes, he does have a few weaknesses, but can he improve as the season goes along, as he gets more minutes? Because sometimes that's what it is for players. They just need a bit of rhythm, you know? They need to understand in the system how it works, if they can get along with those players, etc., etc. So it's going to be a new league. It's going to be a new challenge for him. I'm sure he's up for it. I'm sure Ange gave him some Kool-Aid or gave him the Aussie aid. I don't know what it was he gave to him because he seemed to have drunk it all in. And so, like, yeah, we've got a player we can potentially be excited about. But yeah, it's like you said, Ricky, earlier. The kid, he's got the potential. He's not Van der Vaart, no, but it's something we desperately needed in that attacking three. Someone that can put the ball in the back of the net. Yeah,
and I suppose in a way, it goes back to this point, Dave. Do you want to come in there, Johnny, for us?
Yeah, I was just hearing that apparently Chick King were involved in the deal, and they might have secured him. Listen, look, I'm just looking before last year's stats because I did have them up before him, and we'll try
and bring them through on this show very, very shortly. We're going to try and bring those through to us on this show very shortly.
Because we got Odeberg, we got Mikey Moore, we got Son, we got Richie, can all play on the left. So last season, he played 19 games on the left, scoring 3 goals and 3 assists. He played 7 games on the right wing with 2 goals and 1 assist. And he played centre forward 4 times, scoring 2 goals and 1 assist. So he fits perfectly the flexibility that if we start to get players come back, that he can play in a variety of positions, because personally, I won't be crying if Brennan Johnson's not playing out on the right. I don't know about what you guys think.
Not only that, Johnny,
No.
also France under 21 squads, he actually played with Odobert. So the link up was there between him and Odobert. They're friends, they're buddies. So you can
So
potentially have Odobert on the right, and then you could have Tell on the left, or you could have Odobert on the left, and then you could have Tell up front. And they have played that for a number of seasons on the under 21s and under 19 setup as well. So you're looking at the next French generation, and then he was meant to be looked at as the next, top France striker. Not my words. I'm just saying what's out there. Do you know what I mean? From what I see.
Yeah.
But yeah, carry on.
The only thing I'm
I'm
just going to say, go on, George.
Yeah.
No, sorry, I was just saying that young sort of French winger / striker market is really strong right now with the likes of Bradley Barcola and Desiree Doué, and like you say, Odobert as well. And I think just again to add to your points about like the stats as well. I mean, he came. Bear in mind, obviously, most of these are sub appearances. He was quite young when he joined Bayern Munich as a 17-year-old. He came off the bench and scored 5 goals throughout that first season. And then similar last year, a lot of the times I think he only started probably about 4 or 5 games, but yeah, getting 7 goals and 5 assists last year in 30 appearances is very impressive for an 18-year-old. And he seems to have played equal amounts of games throughout his career, left wing and centre forward. So, like you say, it's like the perfect sort of versatile forward that we need, and can score and assist from both positions.
The only thing I'm worried about, to be honest, was the fact that because there's no option or obligation, should he be a success and we manage to convince him and he loves it at Spurs, the price is going through the roof. And that's that's the only sad part about this, having drawn him to come here for 3 months, which is nothing, we could be the victim if we do turn him into a success. But we'll worry about that down the line. Let's hope he comes, bangs in the goal, and does what we all hope he will do. But he's a great dribbler. He's a great dribbler, and he can beat his man, something that Brennan Johnson can't do. Yeah,
it's also about having different variety of options in the squad, and I think the reality is that he does offer us maybe something that we haven't got at the moment because Odobert is out injured again. We must make this point. He is a very much raw. He's a very much raw talent, one that I think there's a real hope in time he's going to become a star. But you can't go away from the fact that we are still bringing a player that is fairly young with there's no guarantee that he's going to be able to adapt to the league. But I think the most important thing, who I'm pleased with is Ange Postecoglou, right? Ange Postecoglou has said throughout the window he's needed help with Dominic Solanke. We understand, has made it very, very clear of his need to bring in a striker, and Tottenham are doing that. We understand, news coming to us, that Tottenham will cover the full salary of Mathys Tel until June as part of the loan agreement with Bayern Munich. Again, I will remind you out there, for those that are maybe unaware, Bayern Munich still owe Tottenham money for Harry Kane. So you may argue there's a reason there why there is that relationship that there will be. But just to be very, very clear, again, this is being reiterated to us here. There is no buy option clause included. Tel will be back to Bayern in June. And he has actually made it very, very clear on this, George, that he wants to be a Bayern legend. So I think we can't get away from the fact that as much as fans, our interest is Tottenham Hotspur, our direct interest is that, the players' interest will be coming on loan and hopefully performing really well for 6 months, giving us a great, hopefully, opportunity to win a couple of cups. But his priority will be Bayern. Is that fair to say that, George?
Look, it seems that way for sure. And like, when you're already at Bayern Munich and you're 19 years old, you can sort of understand it. And look, let's be honest, as much as we probably would have all liked a buy option or some sort of obligation to see his commitment to show go in a good direction, unfortunately, we've created a mess for ourselves, whether that be position in the league, waiting until the last minute for signings. So we've kind of just shot ourselves in the foot where beggars can't be choosers in this sort of scenario. So I think having him on for 6 months, fine. Hopefully we actually do start the proper planning. And then when it comes to the summer, maybe that's when you then bring in another specialist winger or forward as well for the club. So if we don't manage to sign him permanently, if he does well. So look, I have no issues with him wanting to do well at Bayern Munich. If anything, it means that he should be working hard at Spurs to do well, because at the end of the day, if he's not going to, then he's never, ever going to play at Bayern Munich. from the summer onwards anyway. So I think no matter what way you look at it, he's got to perform for his own career's sake, really. So look, I'm not too disheartened by it. It would have been nice if we had more of a secure option, but I think it just allows us then to hopefully go with some more targets in the summer when they're a bit more attainable, like your Semenyos, your Cunhas, Mbeuemos maybe, where realistically, I just don't think they were ever going to move in January.
So I agree. Look, just to bring up that news again, look, we're going to go for our next practice very, very quickly. George leaves us in 5. I've got Ash and Johnny here for how long they can carry on for. Just that breaking news that we've had in the course of this last, literally the last half an hour, which has changed the slant on where the show may have been going. Look, I will still say out there'll be many fans out frustrated it's taken this long to get to where we've got to, but we understand Tottenham are in the process of completing a deadline day loan move for Mathys from Bayern Munich. Just to be very, very clear, there is no buy option as things stand. This will be a straight loan between Tottenham and Bayern. Again, we'll make that point. We understand there's money owed for Harry Kane, which could be linked to why there's that relationship in place. You would imagine at the time of rejecting Tottenham had other opportunities out there that haven't materialised in these last few days, and that has allowed Tottenham to sweep in and what looks like complete the signing. We'll make that point again. Daniel Levy has personally, we understand, driven this move across the line. Daniel Levy has been absolutely, whatever you think about him, I think it's fair to say influential in getting this deal done. And we'll make that point again. Ange Postecoglou has spoke to Mathys earlier and convinced him to join Tottenham. We're hearing from a lot of the French-based sources out there. Laurent Julien, very well-respected French-based journalist, who says that Ange Postecoglou played an absolute major role in getting him to join. I think what we need to look at maybe is looking at last season's facts and stats out there, courtesy of Sky Sports, I will say. That, look, this is kind of where these stats do kind of maybe ram home what you might be getting from a player. This is on the 22-23 season. So we're going back maybe a couple of seasons here, forgive me. Goal scored 12, assists 6, shots 73, 9 starts, 51 substitute appearances. I presume the hope will be, coming back around to you, John, if we can see a little bit of this form in terms of the goal scoring aspect for Tottenham in the second half of our season, that could really help us massively.
I think the thing is, the one part about Ange Ball, which I think has let us down, is when we get down the flanks, is the ability to beat the man and get the ball across. And this is what Mathys is very good at. His dribbling, his ability to use his brain cutting inside or going on the outside. And he's going to create space. He's going to create space. He's going to take other players with him. And hopefully the midfield can utilise that space or use that space. But he's going to be crossing the ball. I just think it offers us so much more. Having seen a lot of the videos of him before, listen, obviously I've seen him in, the Champions League games. I'm not going to tell you I've sat there and I've studied him over the last 5 years and I've watched him since he was 6. But I will say that, he's been spoken about in very high terms since he was 17 years of age. He has stated previously that he wants to go on and become a Bayern Munich legend. So that's someone who has massive confidence in their own ability. And whatever's gone on this season, I think he's been a bit disheartened by the fact that, having had 2 great seasons and the progression that he showed, that this season companies come in, doesn't fancy him as much. Other players are getting in his space on the flanks. He's got lots of competition. That this is a perfect opportunity for him. And as George rightly said before, you can look at it, in a negative way that we've got no option. And should he love Spurs, it's going to be a problem for us. But on the positive side, as George said, that desire to actually show Bayern Munich they've made a huge mistake could be how we really benefit from this. I mean, look, he's going to be in that squad for the Europa League. Yeah, what a fantastic asset he's going to be. Yeah, and if he's there banging in that goal in Bilbao, right, and we lift that cup, and no one's going to care, are they? No one's going to care. No one's going to care. And let me tell you something. It'll be much easier to sell the story about being a legend at Spurs then going back to Bayern Munich and potentially having to sit on the bench. So dreams do come true. This is the start of the story. And we've had so much negative, right? We're allowed to dream and we're allowed to think positive for once, because every time I've been on this show, I've been waiting for a win. I finally get one on Thursday, and then on Friday. Was it Friday we got the Tell news? I can't remember.
It was Friday, yeah.
It was a Friday that was a kick in the teeth. And then we get the news, the win yesterday, which was fantastic. And then we started, on a very negative front. But I'd like, again, to thank Beyonce for managing to swing it, because I'm sure that was the deciding factor. Angie's going to claim it, but I'm giving it to Beyonce. It's a good signing.
We're going to come on to how good it will be. We're going to let George go. George is back with us later on. George, massive thank you. We're going to see George later on during this show. We may have guests appearing during this one. Ash, are you okay to stay for now, or are you going to watch your situation, Ash?
I can stay on for a bit. Yeah.
We've got Ash still for a little bit. So, George, we're going to let you go. We're going to see George later on, where we may have completed the signing of Mathys Tel. And George will be back telling us hopefully more about it. We understand Spurs, just to give you that breaking news, are closing in on his signing. We're going to see G around 7:15, where we'll hopefully have that announcement. G, thank you so much. And again, to kind of wrap up where we are during this transfer window, which is absolutely crazy, we'll take you back right to the start of the day, although you might not want me to take you back to the start of the day, as G will drop off there for us. Tyler Dibling, we understand, is a player that Spurs very much have 100% in their mind an interest in. However, we understand at the moment that Spurs are calling their interest in Tyler Dibling. Unlikely that is going to happen during this transfer window. That remains the same for Leon Bailey, along with Noah Okafor. We understand Spurs now, from their perspective, are putting their full emphasis and focus in ensuring that Mathys Tel will become a Tottenham Hotspur player. We understand that is the focus for Tottenham during this January transfer window on this deadline day. And we are hearing from friend of the show, Alistair Gold, Spurs are expected to complete a deadline day move for Mathys Tel. The exact structure of that deal is still to be finalised. It could be a straight loan, but here's some other news for you. Tottenham would prefer a more permanent arrangement. So Tottenham would prefer a more permanent arrangement for the signing of Mathys Tel. Keep your eyes peeled. We're going to bring you more and more on this. And I think it goes back to that point, Johnny, where you were talking about the fact when you look at his stats of the 22-23 season, 12 goals, 73 shots, 6 assists, 9 starts, 51 substitute appearances. Is this a guy that you feel, Johnny, if he does get a regular run in the team, look, if it's a loan or whatever, the guy can score goals. We've seen him do it in Germany. We've seen how well Harry Kane has done in Germany with scoring goals. We hope that can translate to the Premier League.
Yeah, listen, I think, that was 22-23. I think his stats for 23-24 were pretty good as well. I think it can. Dynamic players who take players on, that's what Spurs is all about. I just feel that that's the one thing that's been missing, seriously missing this season, is a player's ability to beat the last man or take on his man. And he dribbles. He's going to drive into the box. He'll cut inside. He's going to draw fouls, win free kicks. Yeah, what's not to like? I know when you look at the headline, 8 games he's played, a lot of there's hardly any minutes in that in those 8 games, and he's not scored. That's what's going to grab the headlines. But if you look at his reputation, the fact that he believes in himself at the age of 19, he's willing to leave to prove everybody wrong, and he's coming to Spurs to do just that. Should be exciting. Listen, I was really happy that he was coming, or thought that this is the type of player we were going to secure. It's another line, another in a long line of youngsters that we're signing. I know some people will look at this and say, "Oh God, another kid," but talent. It's about building for the future. I said it would be fantastic. I would be more impressed with this news if we go on to secure some sort of option to make it permanent. Maybe you'll see the training ground and the stadium, because he probably doesn't know too much about us. Let's be honest.
Well, I think again, we make the point there. Look, I think when you look at his most recent season, you'd say that maybe isn't the most best statistics out there. But I think a lot of people, Johnny, will be clinging their hope to the fact that when you've seen him play on a more regular basis in that previous couple of seasons where Spurs did very much kind of state their interest in him before, obviously, the Harry Kane move at the time where there was hope Tottenham would bring him to the football club. He had fairly impressive stats, Johnny, which will give a lot of people confidence out there that if we can get him the game time, that will hopefully replicate in goals, right? Fingers crossed.
Yeah, no, 100%. I just he's got a lot of assets that this club needs, and he was a hot talent. This isn't some guy that's just been sat on the bench for God knows how long. I don't know. We should be very happy that he's coming because he's going to offer us something. I know it's only a loan. I think the biggest thing that gripe that's going to be with a lot of people, and understandably, is the fact that he said no, and the fact that United, Arsenal, Villa, none of them came in for him, and we were probably the only ones left at the dinner table. I prefer to look at it, in the positive, personally. Yeah.
I would go back to that point. I would say on this that I think the most important thing, Ash, is that look, at the end of the day, I've said this actually throughout starting the show, Ange Postecoglou has needed support during this window, and he's got that support, right, in terms of the fact of getting a forward in. Whether it's long-term, whether it's short-term, the reality is that they've got Ange Postecoglou a forward, and it's a forward that 100% Tottenham Hotspur have needed. Whether it'll be good enough is another question. The reality is that it's a forward that has been very much kind of in Europe looked at as somebody that could make a difference to a team. Is that the most important thing here, Ash, that we're, with all due respect, buying somebody that is raw, but at the same time it feels like has been a target throughout the window and is not to some degree a last-minute panic dash? Because I think there would be an argument now to suggest that Mathys tell in terms of the quality he would offer, you can't get these kind of players on deadline day. And do you feel for that reason alone, you've got to give this a chance to work?
Yeah, I mean, he suits the system, right? Plays on the left, can play on the right, can play down the middle, both-footed. And also, he has an aerial presence as well. I think that's one thing a lot of people have overlooked. He can put the ball into the box and he can arrive at the back stick and he can be a menace. So that's another attribute. And I kind of like that because it shows that the kid's got needle. He's got a certain mentality, certain personality. And even though he might have not said 100% yes to us, and he gave us, the no. He also gave Chelsea the no as well. Chelsea aren't no small boy club, so we're not the only ones to be rejected. So I'm not gonna be too disheartened. It just shows his ambition as a footballer, and if we can somehow convince him, because we got to do our job as well. Whilst he's here, we've got to somehow convince him that we are the right club, that we are moving in the right direction, that he can get to the heights where he wants to at this club if he stays with us. There's no guarantee that if he goes back to Bayern Munich that he gets his foot there as he would at Tottenham. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's down to us fans as well to show him a positive welcome and put arms around him and make him feel special. As I said before, he's got the relationship with a player that we have at our club. Do you know what I mean? Oderbert's played with him at that under 21s, under 19s level, and so we've got a good French base. And then the fact that we've got two wingers that can play on either wing, and they're both footed, both of them, allows someone like Kulusevski to come off the right wing and play as the number 10 or play in that midfield. We saw how well Kulusevski played on Thursday night when he was in that 10 position, just behind the striker, just behind Scarlett. He was so aggressive, so physical. And maybe now we can start to see more goals from Kulusevski. Could we give him some rest as well? Because Kulusevski's had to play every single minute of every single game because there has been limited options in that front line, and he's had to fill in when Johnson's injured. Can Johnson now up his game? Now he knows another player's coming in. Sometimes you start to see players start to up their game. You might even see Son start to up his game. Now he knows another forward's coming in. There's Richarlison on a shift because this kid can play in a number 9 role. And so it's down to him to kind of show us also and Bayern Munich that he is the guy that he thinks he is. So there's many elements to this actual transfer. Where I think he needs to improve on, in my opinion, is if he is going to play the number 9 role at times, he needs to be a little bit more physical in terms of hold up play, in terms of looking after the ball, back to goal. He's not that type of striker where he's got it yet. I think the variety of finishes, he has demonstrated some, but he needs to be a bit more composed in terms of his like finesse finishing. He uses a lot of power in his shot. So they say there's a lot of low XG chances. Well, I know people hate XG, but in terms of like actual chances where you don't expect a player to finish, he's able to finish, meaning he can shoot from outside the box and put it in the top bins, to put in the bottom corner. Yep. He's that type of player. So a lot of those goals you're going to see, if people do their research and look at him, some people haven't looked at him online yet, but if you look at his videos, you're going to see nothing but bangers, right foot, left foot, like quality finishes on his weak foot. And that's very hard to see in this day and age where you see a player score and smash like top corner on his weaker foot. And that's why people say some of the tacticals are saying he is a strong replacement because of that, because he can finish on his weaker foot outside the box, because he can finish outside the box on his stronger foot. It's those type of things where people are getting excited at. Can he do that at Spurs? That is the biggest question. He is raw, so I'm not trying to get ahead and get the fan base excited.
You know what, Ash? You know what, Ash? The thing I'm quite excited to see, I love to see Tell and Jed Spence. Oh my God, the overlap runs, right?
Yeah, that would be great, wouldn't it? Yep.
That is, for me, that's a marriage made in heaven, right? Those
absolutely agree.
Down that flank. Listen, hopefully he tracks back and understands.
No. Let me stop it there. Defensively, his numbers are through the roof. He works hard for the team. He's got mentality, stellar mentality. So in terms of winning the ball back in the defensive third, he helps that. He contributes. Where he can improve is, like we did talk about, his 1v1, but if it's a 2v1, he needs to improve on that. In terms of starting attack from deep, he does need to improve on that in terms of like bringing the ball out from that position. But no, I agree with you, man. Him and Jet.
Yeah. Can you imagine?
They're linking up. It's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, listen, look, the power and the pace and the dribbling ability and the beauty of that partnership is if you make it thrive, which I think it can thrive, it can be just as effective on the right as it is on the left, which is the beauty of it, to be honest. Look, I think it's
if you look at his Johnny, even if you look at his body. His body composition is very similar to like a Spence in terms he's like quite a long, wiry type of figure, like his stride pattern, his pace. Like he's going to be a quick player that Spurs can utilize. Imagine the pace on both wings. Imagine like Odebert's due to be back within the next week or 10 days.
So I don't see him until the end of Feb, to be honest.
To the end of Feb, yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Okay, but potentially end of Feb, then you could see
playing.
Yeah, Odeber and Tell on the pitch. Do you know what I mean? And then Johnson could come on as extra pace as a impact sub almost. Do you know what I mean? Or even if Johnson starts and then Tell comes on, or Odeber comes, now there's options all of a sudden going into March.
That's so important that you say there, Ash. We have got options. That's what Ange will look for. Look, we are going to go for our next break of the show for our listeners' audio. We've got over 12,000 of you that are watching the show live. Look, thanks as always for your incredible support for Last Word on Spurs. We'd urge if you can, as Johnny would say when he's on here, hit like, hit subscribe, share this to a worldwide Spurs audience. To our audience, Timmy Winster's on from Spurs Song Sheet. Timmy, thank you so much for coming on. Tim, he's been out with Ash before. Johnny, meet Tim if you haven't met him for the first time. He's in that stadium. He's in that stadium for a lot of songs. We're going to be careful with the songs at the moment with relation to where we're at in terms of our current structure on YouTube. But we've got the wonderful Timmy Winston in the house here. We're going to give you a very quick round before we bring Tim's thoughts in on this transfer window so far. Spurs, the big breaking news that is happening this hour is Tottenham have agreed a deal in principle with Bayern Munich for the loan signing of Mathys Tell. Now, we understand, as things stands at the moment, the player is en route to London with his agent. He will meet and Postecoglou in person, and we understand that and Postecoglou has played an absolutely pivotal role in convincing Mathys Tel to join the football club. Now, what is at the moment undecided is whether if the deal will be a permanent or a loan move. Now, being reported by a lot of the UK journalists out here that cover Tottenham on a regular basis, the likes of Dan Kilpatrick, Alistair Gold, is that reports have suggested Mathys Tel will join Spurs on a straight loan without an option to buy. But those details are still being finalised, and a permanent transfer still could be possible. So, as we record right now, Mathys Tel could end up being a permanent Tottenham player. That we're awaiting the news on. What we can tell you is what is breaking right now. This is such the nature of this show. You've got to love them. The player has landed at Farnborough Airport ahead of his proposed move to Tottenham. He will undergo a medical before completing a loan move until the end of the season. One man that I can tell you is already probably working on his lyrics, on what he's going to sing at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, is Timmy Winston. Tim, lovely to have you here. We love you very much. A massive part of Last Word on Spurs. Tim, give me your feelings on the overall window and the news as we understand it right now. Mathys Tel, despite 4 days ago, Langer and Levy flying out of Germany, coming back empty-handed. I can't even talk at the moment. They're about to secure the signing of Mathys Tel, and we're waiting on news if that's a perm or a loan. Thoughts on you, Tim?
Well, it's just amazing, isn't it? I mean, I think everyone is kind of thinking, thoughts on the window, bit of a shit show, really, I guess, because it's just getting to that point where, we need reinforcements. Obviously, everyone that we went for didn't want to join us. We were just like the poor relation, weren't we? Especially with the news on Gay this morning as well. It's just talk about leaving it last minute, but then obviously, it's just mental. I mean, me and the guy wrote songs with headers, so we good shout to him. So he came to me with an idea last week. I played on Thursday, and I thought, we just give it a go, just in case he was actually looking quite likely he was going to sign with it. And then, I'd like to say I predicted the whole thing, mate, was going to come off in the end, but we've already written him a song. So, and I think the last line of the song was, I pray Mathys Tel he's on the way. So if it's correct, but it's massive news. Especially the reinforcements needed up top. Obviously, Richie's come back. Different thoughts on Richard. Against he's never really had a run of games, but I just think it's just a critical signing for us at this time. Yeah, be it a loan, be it a permanent or loan to. Is it a loan with an option, or do we not know that yet?
Well, at this moment in time, that is still to be decided. I think the UK journalists are telling us, as things stand at the moment, that there is a suggestion the club are looking to maybe go permanently with the move. We've started this show and absolutely battered them for not getting a forward in. We've come to a point where we're now weighing up whether it'll be a straight or a loan move for Mathys Tel. What a window! What a deadline day! I will know again. I will just say this, Tim. I know there's many out there still that are maybe frustrated at the fact that we're going back in for a player that has rejected us. I mean, what's your take on that for you, Tim? Because I know, look, Postecoglou has made it very, very clear from his perspective that he doesn't like bringing players in that aren't fully committed. He's had a chat with him. He's changed his mind. Is that good enough for you?
Mate, considering last week we couldn't even fill a bench. I think that, do you know what I mean? I think the thoughts on that were probably when we had a fully fit squad, and I completely agree with that concept, especially with the unit in the team, and obviously as what appears they still be playing for the manager. I think at this stage, bodies on the pitch and quality bodies is what we need. So I guess it's down to Tottenham to convince him over the next period to the end of the season that it's a good place to stay. And hopefully we can, if he hits the ground running, we can get one a permanent. But I think, I have literally no idea because it's obviously come out of the blue. So is there any chance he's available for Thursday? I'm assuming not.
Well, I think at the moment they'll be working on the fact they've got to get him over the line in terms of getting him a move done. I think the key thing will be now, we obviously know with Kevin Danso that his situation is that we're confident he will get his work permit in place for Thursday. So Kevin Danso will be in the squad for Liverpool. Good. I think the key thing will be, back to what you say there, Tim, is whether Mathys Tel is in a position to go straight up top for Tottenham at Anfield in the semi-final. I mean, it's unbelievable. Unbelievable, like I say, unbelievable on the show where we're going. Timmy, what we might suggest is...
Look at what happened with Kingsky, right? He came in for the first. It was unbelievable. If he's available, then sometimes just throw these players in.
Yeah, Really important point there you make. I mean, Johnny, I think going back to Tim's point there, and Tim, we might just ask you. We're getting a little bit of feedback on the headphones. We might ask you to either lose them or just adjust them for a slightly there. Bless him. Johnny, just on that point which Tim mentioned, I think it's so important. There is, do we just throw him straight in for Thursday? Have you got any reservations of going straight up top? Would you start Richie? I mean, given the situation we're in right now, what would you do, Johnny?
Well, Richie's not 100% fit. I mean, he should have come off after about 30 minutes. He was blowing on. I mean, the poor guy's having to do a lot more than he should. I'm not sure how match fit Tell is, having only played sort of 8 games himself. Actually, someone sent me as an analogy. It says, the Tell transfers, like you ask a girl to go out and she says no. Then she starts seeing some other guy and that don't work out. And she comes back to you and she says, we'll give it a go, but I ain't staying long, right? How do you cope with that? How do you cope with that? That's sort of weird.
Like any relationship, Johnny, you work on it. You see if you can develop it into a more permanent fixture. That's if you want to keep them, you don't want to get rid of them. And then what you realise is after 15 years, oh fuck, I'm stuck with them.
You need to wine them and dine them. Tim, I thought you were going to do Tell. I thought you were going to do it to the sound of the William Tell, the old. I don't know if you know William Tell, the show. There used to be a show called William Tell, and there used to be a soundtrack to that.
No, listen, I can give you the song. So it's to the Backstreet Boys, and we literally wrote this last week. It's, tell me why might be another hurricane. Tell me why need another striker at the lane. Tell me why he's gonna play the Tottenham way. Mathys Tell is on the way. There you go.
Brilliant, Timmy. I hope not, Timmy. I hope not. Is that copyright anywhere? I don't think so. Time will tell. Back to that point, Johnny, for you. We're going to go around Ash in a second. Can you see Spurs throwing him in to the cauldron of Anfield, semi-final for Tottenham, a 1-0 lead we take there? Would you throw Tell in? Tell us.
Yeah, why not, man?
We've got them all here.
Listen, we had this conversation about Danso. I was having a conversation about Danso. Do you throw them both in? I mean, what do you do? I mean, look, this is the biggest game that the club's had in a long time. We can't take any risks. So I think Tell's going to be on the bench. I think there's more of a chance of Danso starting because Tell can affect something late in the game. We got a situation, though, with Mickey van der Ven. I don't think Mickey can do more than 50 minutes. I don't want him to risk more than 50 minutes. So I think Danso will play. I think Tell could play, but he'll come off the bench. That's my thought.
It's quite interesting, Ash, come around to you, but the fact that Ange Postecoglou has had a chat with him, or that's what's being led out by the PR, can I just say? I mean, again, depending on how you sit with that fact that Ange Postecoglou's had a chat with him, would seem to indicate that Ange Postecoglou has approved of the player. But we're at a point now where who knows generally what goes on. I mean, what's your feeling on it for you, Ash? I mean, by the fact Ange has had that chat and he's convinced him, what's your vibe take on that for you? Is that, again, a good sign that there won't be any disharmony in the camp and it won't be a fact of a bad egg? Because what I will just say is I think what was passed to me is that this kid's a very good, humble kid. He wants to come in. He wants to work hard. He's not seen as a bad egg. But I think, as we've said actually on this show so far, there's over 15,000 of you watching, guys. Thank you so much out there. That I think there will be a bit of a concern that, he wasn't obviously at the start convinced to come to Tottenham. But then that's the same for a lot of players, Ash. It's not a general thing that it will be a definite. That's football, right? You can't always very convince them first time around. I'm sure there's many that have had reservations of coming to Tottenham. And as fans right now, I think we also would like to step away, but we can't. We're stuck with them.
I mean, who can blame them, to be fair? Because, look, we were just 16th a second ago. Now we're 14th. We hadn't won a game until, December. So we were on a run of bad form. I don't think any club coming from a top club, Bayern Munich, they are where they are. I'm assuming they're top of their league, in the Champions League, pushing on, trying to get into those knockout stages. So... And then you're looking at Spurs. Yes, we're in all 3 competitions. So I think him coming to Spurs and Ange having the say-so, like you said, it could be PR. Whether it's PR or not, he's coming. So one thing I will say, actually, is Ange has been backed. You can't argue it.
Yeah, you tell him, Ash.
Been packed. I don't care what anyone
Well,
says.
you know, Ash, I would say at what point, though, I mean, I would say, look, whilst you're making that point there, I would say there's been, on that point, a lot of damage limitation been done in terms of the fact that you can't forget, we've had, I think, 3 league fixtures in between this potential move for Danso and for Tell. There would be an argument, in my opinion, that for me, 100%, if Ange Postecoglou was given Tell and was given Danso at the start of the window, I don't think Tottenham lose to Leicester. I don't think Tottenham lose to Everton. So I would say on that point there, in my opinion, that I think there's points there for Ange Postecoglou that, in my opinion, he would have got had he got these players earlier. So I probably, as much as I love you, I might have to disagree with that point there. I don't think you could say he's been back 31st of January. What's he meant to do? We've had games that have gone by now that really could have done with these players earlier. That would be the frustration, I think.
Okay, Ricky. I don't want to go back and forth, but I just
come back. I love you very much. Come back and forth with me. Go for it. We can do this.
He had Spence all that time.
Yes, yeah. I agree with that one. And I've also agreed, I think me and Johnny have said this before, Bergvall and Gray could have been played a lot earlier. There's no doubt, I think Bergvall and Gray weren't giving their starts to December, just to back you up in what you're saying here. And Spence as well could have been used earlier. But when it comes to being backed in the window, I can't, for me, sit here and say that he's been backed. When you look at the fact that before the window started, he said, I want help for Dominic Solanke. We're taken to the 31st day to find him a forward. And with all due respect, Mickey van der Ven, Christian Romero, they went down on the 8th of December. 3 days later, Ben Davies went down. And we've just got him a centre-back on, the 1st of February. I don't think, and I'm sure you'll agree, Ash, as well, I don't think that's backing a manager. And I think he's been massively let down, even at this point now, just to be very, very clear, massively let down. For me, ENIC is still 100% culpable for where Tottenham find themselves in the Premier League. There's no doubt about it. I'm sure you agree as well. And you'll be 100%, I'm hoping as well, Ash, the fact that there still needs to be that pressure put on the football club to demand more. Because lastminute.com, as Johnny said, is not good enough still. Not good enough.
Yeah, 1,000%. But going back to the point now, he's asked for bodies. He's asked for a centre-back. He got the centre-back. He's asked for an attacker. And he's got the attacker. So from here, I agree with you. The start of the window, they should have come in a lot earlier. There's no disputing that. He wasn't backed earlier in the window. But now, as the window is finishing, he has got his attacker and he has got his centre-back pairing. Mickey van der Ven, you've got Ben Davies. So that's 2 left-sided players. That's 2 left-sided centre-backs. I agree. You could improve on Ben Davies long-term. But I think Ben Davies has had an incredible season but he's had a good season as a stand-in. Do you know what I mean? And he's been a bit of a leader, talking at the back. I saw the last game, he was doing all the talking, organising that back line, etc., etc. So you've got 2 centre-backs potentially on that left-hand side. On the right-hand side now, obviously Jackerson's dropped out, but you've got Romero who is to come back, and you do have Danso. So you've got 4 centre-backs potentially in that back line. The full-back area, obviously you've got Jed Spence who could cover both right back and left back. So I still think we need to upgrade in the full-back areas, but Jed Spence is covered for both left back and right back, in my opinion. In terms of the attacking line, or even before that, in the midfield area, I think we've got ample midfielders. In the summer, I would like to improve on it. I would, regardless of what manager's here. But I would say the midfield area isn't really the problem apart from the 6. I think if we got a proper 6, a proper defensive midfielder in, then there could be no complaints. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. In the forward line, now we can say we've got options in terms of Tell. You've got Johnson, whether we like him or not, or whether we think he's good enough. Then we've got Odobert, as I said before. Up front, we've got Richarlison, and we've got Solanke. Now, the debate would be, are they the level that we need to push on? I'm happy with Solanke myself. Not everyone is in the fan base. And the wing, again, you've got Son. I'm not going to speak about Werner, but obviously we've got Odobert that can fill in the left, and then you've got now Tell as well that can play on the left as well, and you've got Mikey Moore who also can play both flanks as well, as we've seen on the weekend. So that's what I mean by like Ange now. No excuses. Like I want to see. Like,
you mean results now? You want to see results based on what's been doing.
That's what I mean. Yeah. That's what I mean by like Ange now has been backed. But I do concede your earlier point. Like these players should have come in a lot earlier. Poor planning from the board. Panic, reaction FC. That's what we've been doing. Yeah. And I agree with Johnny. I think Beyonce was the one to get him over the line. Do you know what I mean?
Well, it's funny, isn't it? I mean, Tim, talking about musicians here. I go from one musician to another.
I thought you were about to sing, Ricky. The way you're holding the mic there, I thought you were going to sing.
Straight to go.
Don't tempt me, Johnny. That might be me bringing in someone else on this bloody show. I tell you, they're looking to get Adele over the line, from what I'm understanding, at some point. Tim, you know what? You're in that stadium a number of weeks doing what you do. Bless you, with the gigs out there. How do you think the fans will react to this window when it does come to a close? I mean, because we haven't asked you this point yet. The fact that if they do get 2 over the line, they've got Dan 2 over the line. In your opinion, is that enough? Should we have done more? Is this what Ange Postecoglou was wanting? Because I still maintain the point for me that this has just come too late. It's damage limitation in terms of the league position. Yes, you could argue they've done it for him in terms of giving him the best opportunity in terms of the cup competitions, but what's your take, Tim, on, as you know, it's a massive week for the football club. Have they done enough to save Tottenham's season? How much damage has been done before by not bringing these players in early, in your opinion?
I think, to be fair, what I will say is there's been, like the Dragosin injury. We've had a load more. Well, we should have just predicted it because everyone just gets injured at the moment. We were just massively short. We were short before, then we were massively short. So I guess the way to look at it, trying to have a sort of half full attitude, is that at least we've got some in and quality that are going to be absolutely be needed. You could argue, particularly centre back, players coming back. Is it an attractive proposition if you've got Van der Ven and Romero, are going to play most games when they come back and they're not too far off, from starting matches. So I mean, we obviously got a razor thin squad. It's been proved. It's unprecedented, the injuries we've had. The question I would have is, would we have gone for Gay had Dragosin not got injured? Which is my first question. And then we obviously need more, but the trouble is, everyone knows transfers are difficult in January. And I just want to come back to the point about what you said before, because I was listening to Bridgie on Sky Sports, or gone in the background. So if you think from the player, player rejects it first time round, he's probably had a thought about it and just gone back in, had a conversation. If you're the player, if it was a permanent deal before, then maybe that might be like, well, this team's 14th, 15th in the Premier League. I can do better. I'm at an elite club already. If you give him a loan, you're sort of saying, from his perspective, you either sit on the bench at Bayern if no one else is going to come in on a loan deal, or you go and prove yourself for 6 months, put yourself in the shop window and get a bigger move. So I think from the player's perspective, about the whole not wanting to come and then suddenly wanting to come, it's probably got to the last day and thinking, do I really want to sit the rest of the season out on the bench? And just obviously done a great job, as we know, he's a great man manager, and he's probably a very convincing guy. So just from the player's perspective, it's surely a no-brainer to come, because he knows he's going to play. If he'd gone to Chelsea or Arsenal, there's no guarantee he's going to play. With us at the moment, I mean, I'm surprised you're not in the starting line, Rick, to be honest. So it's
not when he's hamstrings, Tim. I tell you, not when he's hamstrings, son.
It's just a good fit. It's a good fit, but the most important thing is quality. It's bringing in quality. We're known in the past that we to bring in, let's just say, not top end players, especially in January. Take out sort of Bentancur and Kulusevski that have been great for us. So it's just good to have a very highly rated, great quality player to come in that has played at elite level. I'm not, no disrespect to the Dutch league and stuff like that, but he's played in Germany. It's not the Premier League, but he's at the top end clubs. It's a great end. If we can get any more, then great. It's not enough. It's not enough, and it should have been done earlier. But I'm kind of with Ash's opinion, really. I'm much happier now than I was about 2 hours ago, put it that way.
I mean, I make that point. You will find, if we do get him over the line, Tim will have his song out, I'm sure, by the end of the week. And you'll find that song over on Tim's YouTube, on his X, and live from the stadium, just to be very, very clear. I can't promise you that Ash and Johnny will be dancing in the stadium to the song, but I can promise you will hear it from Timmy Winton in the stadium.
What I will say, Rick, so you asked me a question about the atmosphere. So we played... they sort of do it on rotation. Me and my drummer Bobby played for Leicester. Yeah, every time we play there, which again, you sort of see it as like, I know everyone's got their own opinion about Levy and the board and stuff, and I sort of see it because we wrote these songs. There's so much effort been put into these songs. You sort of want to, fans want to hear them in the stadium before a game, and I can only go by the atmosphere at both games. Leicester, people still turn up, even though we're horrific at the moment. We can't even put a team out. It's still that optimistic bit about, you're there it's your day out. It's a lot of people's lives, isn't it? The football.
Oh, listen, I think it is. I mean, for many out there, Tottenham is people's lives, and it's escapism, which is why, again, it goes back to that point of how much it's needed in the stadium, Tim, whether people like it or not.
You play any songs, and you still feel the vibe. You particularly the Van der Ven song. It just all kicks off on that. And I will say, after the Leicester game, it's the most toxic I've ever. I mean, we got a few pelters from fans, which I said to my drummer, just expect it, 'cause it's going to come. And then we played before Elfsborg. Again, same sort of thing, really good vibe. And then it was the first time, because we actually got a win at home. You just started to feel it change a bit. So I think now, particularly getting a bit of quality in, you'd hope that the next home game is going to be just there is no excuse now. We've got to start getting results. It's such a massive week. 2 cups. We're in 2 cups.
100%. Yeah, I made that point. It's a massive week for the football club.
Over the line, particularly the Liverpool game. We get to a final. I just think you'll start seeing. I mean, everyone's just got to just agree that the league's gone. You sort of hope that 3 points yesterday, your relegation conversation just goes out the window. You hope, especially bringing these players in, that would just be a disaster. So,
totally agree.
I think it will start improving, but only if the results improve. Because there's a lot of fans out there that are Ange out. But I think they're giving him a bit of a chance because of the injury situation. And now we're bringing in players back. There really isn't any excuses now.
Yeah,
if we can't make it work.
Yeah. I think, like you say there, Tim, I mean, the reality is I think the common consensus is that he may have been supported. My argument would still be it's been supported too late. We're going to fit in our next break of the show for our listeners and audio. We've got nearly 17,000 of you that are watching the show live. Thank you so much for all your incredible support for Last Word on Spurs. I'm joined by the wonderful Timmy Winston over there. Again, stadium singer, which you're hearing at stadium. We're joined by the wonderful Ash Matic over at the Spurs Kings. You're asking me where Marlon is. We've put Marlon down. We've picked Ash up. I tell you what, these two are in rotation right there. We're sharing about with We Are Tottenham TV. Ben and Sim, we love you very much. And again, I'll make that point. I think was mentioned during the show. Our deep sympathies are with Ben and Sim. They lost their granddad in the last few days. I'll say, well, a lot of love for Ben and Sim. So our thoughts are with those boys right now. And we send them all the love in the world. Thank you so much. And we're joined by the wonderful Johnny Hammy over there. Football Links, Johnny Hammy. They'll be back hopefully very, very soon. Should be back in the crew. Let's get some of the comments coming in through here. Robert Palmer says, you overall say we can only register 3 new players for the knockout stages. Based on that, who would you pick and take out? What a cracking question, actually, to maybe ask the panel here. Let's ask Johnny that question. Johnny, you got a preference on what you do in terms of that registration option? What we got, that issue we've got? We now need Johnny to unmute from his end. I know it's a difficult question, John. I'm so sorry. We made you to unmute the mic.
Bet you didn't hear what I said.
I know. I realised that was being explicit there in the background. We've got him off. We've got him out of him. We've got out of him.
Yeah, that's a tricky one, isn't it? That's down on Ange because let's be serious. Spence should never have been out of that tournament. That's a tricky one. That is really, really hard. I mean,
absolutely.
How can you leave Spence out? Seriously, we can't leave Spence out because we just can't because it was a huge mistake. You know, Porro could break down at any moment. Then what are we going to do? So, yeah, I think if Vicario's back, you've got to leave out Kinski.
Wow. You know what, that's going to be a very interesting battle, isn't it, between those two, with Vicario and Kinski. I think, it's probably the one area of the squad that we have got some competition with regards to the 2 goalkeepers. We've got 2 goalkeepers there. We'll be very interested how it plays out. I think one to keep an eye on. Look, as we are at the top of the hour, I'm going to bring you what is the headline news. I mean, I tell you what, where we started this show, Ashby was on the floor, weren't we? 2 hours ago? We was on the floor. We were quite literally scrapping. We were scrapping. We was in the reduced aisle of Tesco's. We were looking and seeing what the bargains were out there. What did Tottenham do? They reverted. They did a U-turn. Daniel Levy and co. went back to a man that rejected them 3-4 days ago in Germany personally. Johan Langer and Daniel Levy were out there, as you know, in Germany 3-4 days ago. And we're working on the signing of Mathys Tell, who reportedly told Daniel Levy to his face 3-4 days ago, no, I will not be joining Tottenham. Tottenham, in this last hour and a half, have, quite frankly, U-turned the situation. They have convinced, or Daniel Levy, I would say, from reports, has convinced Mathys Tell to come to Tottenham Hotspur. And as things stands at the moment, Tottenham are working on a move for Mathys Tell. He is on his way to London. We understand he's already landed actually in Farnborough, where he will undergo a medical. The exact structure of this deal is not yet concluded. It could be a perm. It could be A temporary move into the end of the season. I mean, God, what a last few hours being a Tottenham fan. And Paul O'Keefe, bless him, just tweeted it there. What a football club. What a football club. Paul O'Keefe will be on this show from 9 o'clock this evening. Got to ask you, Ash. I mean, it has been a bit of a turnaround here. And it's funny, isn't it, how mood changes. Dave, the Orange Hotspur, a massive friend of the show, who says here, Postecoglou is the only manager to get something out of Spence, failed at Leeds, failed at his period in Girona. Postecoglou is the one who has given Spence the opportunity. And I think, again, that'll be a regular feeling with regards to the way Ange does manage certain players. Johnny's pulling a face there. But the reality is that at the end of the day, it does appear that with regards to Tell, Ange has picked up the phone. He's working on that deal. And TJ Ramini, bless him, massive friend of the show, TJ, we love you so much. TJ's back later in the week. He went mere hours ago. I predicted on this show we will not bring in another striker. I'm delighted to be wrong, Tej. Until he signs it, I don't want to go too crazy. Ange took the Aussie into him. That was it. Great show, chaps. We love you very much, Tej. I mean, Ash, what a turnaround it's been. We mentioned that point about Mathys Tell, a player that the club have looked at the last 3-4 days, a player that, let's be very clear, what we're hearing from behind the scenes, a good egg, good lad, wants to come and play his football. You could argue, as we've said, things do change in this window where, quite arguably, you know, from a player's perspective, when he's looking at the likes of joining Manchester United, joining Chelsea, joining Arsenal, when those moves don't materialise, is it a case where now Tottenham is a best option for him to come and play his football? And at the end of the day, I would like to think we're getting the benefit now of hopefully getting a player that is raw, that is hungry, that wants to prove a point, that he may have rejected us 4 days ago. Will that fire burn inside him to hopefully get back on that horse and produce some goals in what we've got as a massive week for the football club? And let's be honest about it, a massive second half of our season, Ash.
I just want to see him holding up the shirt because I'm still nervous of a hijack.
I know, so am I.
Mate,
Someone cut Bowley's phones. Cut everyone's phones at the respective other clubs. I know.
Don't let him go to the toilet, whatever happens. Don't let
follow him.
William went to the toilet and look what happened there. He climbed out the window.
Do not get, yeah, great point there, Johnny. Whatever you do, when you get him in a building, lock every room, lock every door, lock every toilet, lock everywhere you've got Hotspur raid, put him into the bedding area. Where is it where they put him in the beds, where Mourinho loved the beds? Put him in that bedroom and do not let him out. Get him to sign, Rush, right?
I reckon Arteta's just in there with his little Lego head, just hiding, waiting to grab it. No. He's ours. He's not going anywhere. Ash, how important is it that we lock him up in this next couple of hours to get this deal done?
That's what I'm saying. I'm hoping he passes a medical as well because the way the hamstring's been hamming, I'm just saying, I don't want another broken leg or a MCL or ACL or I don't know, whatever else you want to call it. I don't want any else. I just want to see a win. I want to see him sign that dotted line and hold that shirt up. And then for him, we need him to hit the ground running. Let's face it.
Oh man, I tell you, I agree. Yeah,
potential and all of this type of buzzwords. Forget all of that. I just need him to turn up. What matters, and I need him.
So handcuff him to the goalpost. Whatever you need to do to get him done, right? I mean, there's 14,000 opinions coming through here. I tell you at the moment, we got all different views. I mean, look, it will be interesting, Ash. I mean, we make that point. And then it makes a point there. Kev says it here. Farnborough is too near Chelsea training complex for my liking. I mean, Johnny mentioned that point there. We're not the Willian transfer. We've seen so many, Ash, haven't we, where we can't get it over the line. Whatever we do, just lock him up and get it done, right, Ash?
Yeah, PTSD is real, man. I'll be honest with you. So I just need to see him hold it, like sign that dotted line, and then I can breathe easy, and then all that PR behind it can start. I don't mind, but we need to hit him. He needs to hit the ground running. As much as we say, he's done this in 2023 or he did this in 2022 season, whatever, blah blah blah. All of that's irrelevant. In the Spurs shirt, can he do it? Can we do it in the moments that matter, in the big stages, in the big games where we need to score goals? That's where we need to move on. We need players, as you guys were saying before, that can beat their man, that can cross a ball. How many times have we seen a ball crossed into a box this season? Yeah, I probably count on my hands. So those little things there, can he put in the back of the net? We need players. Everyone wants different things as Spurs fans. Some Spurs fans want an out-and-out winger. Some Spurs fans want a goal scorer. And I'm hoping he can be all of those and more.
Absolutely.
He's all of them, Ash.
So like now, people don't rate the Bundesliga. Some people rate the French league. They don't. I don't know, because I saw Danzo come out with a statement saying how he thinks League One is stronger than the Bundesliga or harder.
Yeah,
He said,
yeah.
League.
Yep.
Played in both leagues, and he thinks that's harder. So I need him to hit the ground running as well. No more talking. I just need to see action. I need to see doing, and hopefully he can deliver that for our team. So
Yeah, I agree. Get voting out there. Rick Saxokoglu, Johnny Tell, Tim Buscavin, Ash Mattagwell. Anything's training soon, I tell you. Look, it has been a crazy last, like I say, couple of hours on here. We'll give you a very quick roundup as to where we are on the other transfer news in terms of where we're at. We understand Tottenham do have interest in Tyler Dibbling. Tyler Dibbling, a player of Tottenham's interest. We do understand that on this deadline day, Southampton are looking for a fee in the region of 55 million if they were to agree a deal for Tyler Dibbling, which at the moment is astronomically out of Tottenham's waters, so we're being told. I'm not telling you that. That's what the report's telling us. So at the moment, that is very much not likely to happen. We understand Angel Gomez, a player that Tottenham were looking at for a lot of this window as someone they could maybe bring in if the price was right. That is now set to go to the summer. You can get Angel Gomez on a free. So you would imagine Tottenham were potentially looking at that now as a possible solution in the summer rather than now. We understood before the Mathys Tell news broke, Tottenham were looking at both Okafor, Noah Okafor and Leon Bailey. Those two players now, with the news that Mathys Tell is on his way to Tottenham, have now obviously called. Tottenham's focus, we understand, between now and the deadline is to agree a deal that would see Mathys Tell join the football club. And just to be very, very clear, at this moment in time as to where we are, there is no real... Well, there's no real agreement in place as to whether this will be a loan or a permanent. Reports suggest from the UK side of the media in football, the likes of Alistair Gold, Dan Kilpatrick, that ideally the club would like potentially a permanent option in there. What we're hearing from the German side of things, Mia San Mia, a lot of the German sources, and also French journalist Laurent Julien, is that our understanding is from that perspective, the player would like to stay at Bayern Munich and be a club legend and would only want to agree a deal on a straight loan. So I presume we're at a point now really where it's down to Daniel Levy, Johan Langer and Postecoglou if they want to try and convince the player that for him, Tottenham is where he wants to be permanently rather than now. And I suppose it goes back to that point, doesn't it? You know, when you're looking at Tottenham's league position right now in the table, which isn't the prettiest, we have to say, you know, they're sitting in 14th. It was certainly better than what it was last week. Let's be very, very clear. They have got this double header in obviously the cups coming up, a massive week for the football club. I just wonder, Tim, how much would that be playing a factor into the player's mind that he could come in, win a couple of cups and almost be kind of iconic legend status at a club that hasn't won a trophy in 17 years. Do you think that might be going through the player's head when it comes to the fact potentially that he could win a trophy here straight away and get legend status at a club that haven't won something for so long?
I think it's a combination of things. You know, whatever you say, we are on paper. Now, I stress the word on paper because we're playing Liverpool, the best team in the world at the moment, arguably. We're 90 minutes from a cup final against, which touch wood, hopefully will be a Newcastle. You never know, dear. So I mean, that's as close as you get to winning something. We're in the fourth round of the FA Cup. It's a hard game. We need players like Tell to be able to give us a chance in that sort of game. And more importantly, our league position is, you know, let's just face it, there's no guarantee without any injuries and having the best season ever. We're ever going to finish in the top four. So we are the favourites for Europa League. We're through without the qualifying round. He's got a chance of winning and getting in the Champions League next year. I know I'm stretching it out to winning 3 cups here, but you're trying to sell something to a player. Your favourites for Europa League, yeah.
Just show that image to. There you go. There's the one. Just show that. There you go. There it is.
One's the Audi Cup and one's the yeah. But no, but you're selling potential.
I thought Johnny collapsed it when I showed that image.
Yeah. You're selling the potential to get definitely a good chance to get into one final. Yeah, you're still in the fourth round of the Cup, as I said. The chance to play in the Champions, as in if he was to come, you know, the Champions League teams don't drop down anymore. We've missed the we've managed to qualify now without playing that extra round, and we are, well, for whatever reason, we're still the favourites, aren't we, for that competition? So
we are indeed. We are.
And just stress the point before, I know he's going to take a while to get to speed because he hasn't played much, but that means he's fresh, right? So, and the players at this time of the season that are overplayed, playing 2 games a week, look what he's done to our squad. Yeah, he really could hit the ground running. You know, it's just much fresher than any other player.
Yeah.
I just think it's and again, people hate it, don't they? But the law of the stadium, we've got one of the best stadiums in the world, the training ground, the old cliches. But that probably does have an impact. And if it is on a loan,
yeah,
and if we can't get any option to buy, you would just hope if he does well enough and he gets used to Premier League football that he might, then a deal could be done at the end of the season. You never know, I guess. But at the moment, like I said on the outset, it's just having bodies and having quality bodies. We need, because who's to say we're not going to? We've overplayed our entire squad. We've had to.
Yeah.
There's going to be more injuries coming down the line. You just know it's going to happen.
Does anyone remember us playing the friendly against Bayern Munich? Because I do. When I saw him play against he ripped it a new one. That's when I looked at Tell and I was like, oh, hang on a second. Wait. Yeah. This Tell is good. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
So I don't know if you guys remember that.
Yeah.
I do.
And the worst case scenario, even if, obviously, he's gone to have his conversations last week and says no. Who's to say Harry Kane had a little word to him? Go and have a go for 6 months. That's the optimistic, emotional side of me coming out, mate. But
I think that's a really important point you make there, Tim, because the reality is, whatever we think about Kane, he does hold Spurs in such higher regard there, and I think I'm sure he would say to Tell, look, you go there and you win a cut of trophies. Those fans are going to adore you. Not even Kane has done that. I mean, do you think that's maybe been underplayed a little bit, Tim? The relationship Kane, just to go back on your point there, Tim, that relationship with Kane that could have on him, having that relationship with Harry Kane.
I reckon even for the fact that he said no last week, and then obviously, which is what I expected, because these things always go this way. Tottenham, obviously, Manchester's picked up the phone. He's probably umming and ahhing, thinking, do I sit on the bench for 6 months? Especially when it looks like there's no other move materialising. And then you would hope then he's probably gone to Kane and said, look, I'm maybe reconsidering. What you think? And then, I don't know. This is, like I said, the emotional Tottenham fan coming at me now. But I'd be surprised if there wasn't a conversation and Kane wouldn't have spoke extremely complimentary about the club. And just like you said, the adoration you get of the fans that are just desperate to win a trophy for so many years. It would just be a club, like I said, club legend, right? Coming in and doing that and maybe scoring the final. Now I'm taking it too far.
No, listen. I mean, on that point, I think it's a really important point you make there. I mean, Johnny, look, there's no doubt about it. We've said it a lot on this show that Kane still absolutely loves Tottenham. I just wondered, do you feel there's been any influence there with regards to Harry, maybe having a chat with Tell and saying, look, you go to Tottenham, those fans are going to adore you, they're going to love you, and you've got the opportunity of winning trophies. Saying that Kane didn't actually achieve at Bayern last season. Is that something you maybe look at and think, do you know what, if he does come here and does achieve that legend status and wins a cup, suddenly he becomes one of the most popular players that we've had in the last 16, 17 years. It's quite crazy I'm saying that.
Well, listen, look, here's the scenario. So Harry goes in and he says, look, Mathys, Tottenham's a great club. This is a club for you. Go and learn your trade. And he's sold. He leaves the room. In comes Eric Dyer. Don't be a mug.
Great point.
Don't be a mug, right? I wouldn't go. And, leave his this, leave his that, leave his the other, who knows, right? Who knows? Because although, Eric and Harry are friends, they don't have the same opinion of Levy, that's for sure. And listen, let's not lose sight, guys. Change for Spurs is still a thing. I know we're buzzing in this moment, but don't let the PR and this moment cloud the real issue that's been with this club. We're on the midnight hour, getting a loan signing and a defender who was ready. I don't believe he was ever on our list. It was an opportunity, and this is years of neglect. And let's be honest, he's got away with it. I mean, what has he spent this transfer window? Probably £8-10 million down on Danso.
Well, he's only able to pay a loan fee at the moment. Obviously, the rest of that money will be in the summer.
Yeah, so he's probably paid. What I'm saying is 10 million total for Tell and the Danso fee. He's got away with a transfer window of 10 million. Is that backing? I mean, the players. We need the players. We need the body. Tell's a good player. Danso, he's the thing about Danso. Just quickly changing the subject is that he has great pace, but what he doesn't have is that instant pace. He can't go from a standing start to instant pace. He like one of those guys who builds up in pace. I just think, don't lose sight, guys, that, no more than an hour and a half ago, we were in free fall. You know, we were all, you know, not happy.
Well, it was a Simpsons picture, wasn't it? The pitchforks towards where we are. And I think it's really important you mention that, Johnny, because that hasn't changed. It hasn't really changed. I think the really important thing you say there is just to be very, very clear that whatever happens in these next few hours of the window, this is why I went back to what Ash said earlier, that I still feel for me, and I actually agree with me in the end, we got to that point where I still feel for Ange Postecoglou, these players should have been here from day one of the transfer window. When I go back to that point earlier, which I said, Ben Davies dropped 3 days after injury from Mickey van der Ven and Christian Romero. Both of those players went down on, it was, I think, December the 8th, right? So they've had nearly over 3.5 weeks to bring players in. We've got Kevin Danso over the line, and that has come in, of course, deadline day eve or day before deadline day. And we can't forget as well, they've tried at the same time to put a bid in for, of course, as we know, the Crystal Palace captain, Mark Gahey, which, again, just to bring you up to date on, Spurs are not proceeding with that any further right now. So, again, just to round up that news on Mark Gahey, for those that weren't aware, that Tottenham Hotspur put a bid in this morning, or allegedly it was overnight, for Mark Gahey. There's been some reports, actually, that Tottenham put the bid in before they got Kevin Danso over the line. But Crystal Palace unwillingly want to part with him on deadline day. They would then themselves have to find a replacement. And for those that followed the, obviously, Mark Gahey story with the summer in Newcastle, would have been a very, very hard deal to get over the line. So we understand at the moment, as things stands, all the emphasis, all the focus, everything that is on the case is trying to get Mathys Tel to be a Tottenham player. Tim, you've got to love and leave us very, very soon. Your final words for you on Mathys Tel, that he could be a Tottenham player. And we understand, as I'm saying this to you, Tim, the news coming through to us here is that Mathys Tel was in talks with Arsenal, Chelsea and Tottenham. And in the end, Spurs presented him with the best project. And further to that news, I can tell you that friend of the show, Paul O'Keefe, who will be on this show later on tonight. Paul joins us from 9 p.m. Spurs are pushing for an option to buy Mathys Tel as part of this deal. Tim, give us your thoughts on you closing here.
Well, well, it improves the situation, doesn't it? Because what we're saying about backing Ange and the manager, if they're pushing for a loan to buy, at least it's showing some commitment there that they want to bring the player on permanent. And what really not confused me, but when he rejected us, you sort of think, well, he's going to go somewhere else, because it's quite obvious. Yeah, he wants to play, and he was going to leave to go somewhere. So the fact that he's, someone, whether it's Ange or whatever, has gone back in and managed to convince him is. I mean, if it is Ange, I mean, then fair play, because to just persist with it was obviously worth doing, because had we not had him, we're just missing out on a huge potential and a huge bit of quality that could get us over the line in these cup competitions. So I share the opinion. We had to do stuff earlier. There's so many points that have gone down that wouldn't have gone down had we brought these players in earlier. The one refute to that is that everyone knows how the transfer window works, and a lot of deals do get done at the last minute. And I think Jason said it on the previous show, is that if you're Tel and you've got other options, you would explore them first and then come back to Spurs. That's just where we are, right? We've got to have some realism there, that is a more attractive proposition to go to those teams than us. So the fact we've actually got him over the line is great news. So hopefully, like I said, it'd be amazing if he can play on Thursday. It'd be absolutely, that game's just going to be raucous anyway. So at least, like Johnny said, even if he's on the bench, at least hopefully make an appearance and contribute to the likely win. I think. Totally
agree on that point. Tim, where can we find you? Bless you. Where can we find you across the socials? Where can they find you, Tim?
Just on my tag there. So on X is Tim_Winstone, just on X, and Tim_Winstone on YouTube. All the songs that we play at the stadium, there's sort of live versions and all the other songs that are there, all the popular ones, and then some new ones now. So I'll probably upload this one because I didn't dare do it last Thursday because it would have got battered. Hopefully now we can get it up there. So
fingers crossed.
For anyone fans that are going to the game, the next game with me and my drummer are playing is 26th of February for Man City, and hopefully I'll get to see Tel play live. So with a bit of luck,
that is fantastic.
Thanks for you guys, by Ash and Johnny, and
bless you.
Just to bring up what you said, Rick. So just thoughts go out to Sim and Ben. They're good mates of mine. So
bless them.
It's obviously really sad news, and Grandpa was a massive part of Spurs. So thoughts of his family and stuff.
Tim, you're a superstar. We're going to see you very, very soon. As Tim drops off, we're going to give you a round of where we are 2.5 hours into this transfer window. Tim, we're going to love and leave you. Thank you so much. A wonderful Timmy Winston there. Right, so where are we right now in terms of this transfer window? Bringing you the news from the very, very top in what has started to be a bit of a Samaritan call. We were thinking, what were Tottenham going to do during this transfer window? What were they thinking? What were they doing? Well, I can tell you what they're doing right now is they are in process of agreeing with Bayern Munich for the signing of Mathys Tel. And in regards to that signing, I can tell you that Paul O'Keefe tells us it could be a straight loan, but Tottenham are pushing and pushing and pushing for an option to buy the player outright at the end of that loan. The player in these last few hours, we understand, had opportunities from the likes of, just to be very, very clear, I'm back. I think I'm back, guys. Have you got me? Have you got me? I think you lost. I think you lost me there for a second. Yeah, our understanding is that Tottenham are pushing and pushing to get this deal over the line for Mathys Tel to be a Tottenham Hotspur player. We understand at the moment there's a full focus on him being a Spurs player. Whilst I fix my issues there in the background, Ash, I'll hand over to you. What does that mean, Ash? By the fact that he's had those talks there with the likes of Arsenal, with the likes of Chelsea, and he feels Tottenham is right for him. Will that give the fans confidence that we've had to go back twice and get it over the line, and he feels this is now the right project for him, from what we're led to believe from the PR status coming out of this now?
Yeah, you know what? I'm looking at it. Obviously, first Lange went over there. Didn't quite work with Langer. Levy's had to go over there. He rejected Levy's to his face. And then Ange has gone over, and he's like the football man. I know we was having this conversation earlier, and we were having question marks if football people are running the club properly. Like, are they doing their best? And actually, Ange going over there and talking to him, maybe he's just spoken to some things where he thinks he fits in the system. Because I'm looking at the other clubs. I looked at Manchester United, and I'm like, will he sit right there at Manchester United? Will he work in their particular system under Amorim? I'm not too sure. Will he play in the 2-10s? Because I know they play with 2-10s in the striker. Will he play as a striker for Man United? Is he confident in that particular project? And I look at maybe Arsenal. Does he want to, does he take Martinelli's spot? Does Arteta see him playing week in, week out over Martinelli? I'm not too sure. Maybe Arteta sees Martinelli starting over him. I don't know if that was, if the kid's completely convinced over that project over there as well. Then Chelsea, they've got a bag of wingers. There's so many wingers they have at their disposal. Is he going to be second or third fiddle? Will he even get into their first team? Will he be in their Conference League team? I don't know. So he's looked at those many options. He's looked at Spurs, and obviously Ange just said, look, we're having issues. Richarlison's having problems staying fit. He's not completing the full 90 minutes. Our right wing, Kulusevski, we see him playing maybe in midfield or in other positions. So we don't really have an out-and-out right winger, whereas Johnson's struggling for fitness. We need players that could help us to progress now. You're looking at the other side as well with Son. Son has played like so many minutes this season. He is our captain, but again, he needs to be rotated on that left-hand side. And so Tel has many options where we could fit him into our squad, either as the number 9, the left winger, or the right wing option. And so he can cover 3 positions right there, and he can help us hopefully hitting the ground running. And that was my question earlier. Can he do that? And the player definitely believes he can. Ange obviously spoken to him from what we're led to believe, whether it's PR or not. That conversation he's had has probably had him thinking, yeah, maybe I can come into this position. I mean, earlier in the show, we were talking about other positions, and Gray was the big talking point. And I was thinking in my head, does Gray inclusion, the fact that we went from, does that mean Romero is no longer going to be at the club long term? Are we looking for players that can maybe fill in where Romero might be going elsewhere? I'm not too sure. I'm just throwing out there. It's just a question mark. And then if that's not the case, if Romero is staying, then you look at Mickey van der Ven. Is Mickey van der Ven, is his hamstrings going to be an issue moving forward? That's something has to be looked at as well as a real consideration. I know they've come out and they said they didn't want to risk him, and that's why he wasn't in the squad on Sunday against Brentford, and they wanted to save him for the cup. It's just some of those questions you have in your head. The reason that the fact that we've gone for Danso so late in the window, but then we're pushing really hard for the Disasi. Thank goodness we've called our interest in that one. But the fact that we keep going for another centre back just leads me to think there is some issue over Mickey van der Ven's fitness. So there's a lot of question marks. And then now Tel has gone through and they're trying to push through an actual permanent deal or an option for a permanent deal. Makes me think that the club are acting at a slight desperation because it hasn't gone to plan throughout this window. It's looking a bit reactionary. Player did reject us at the start of the window, not the start of the window, midway through the window, and now we're pushing hard to get Tel in for a permanent deal. Maybe they're panicking because it doesn't look good on the club, the image rights, the brand of the club, it's not looking good. And so they're trying to get a permanent deal, because even if they do get Tel on an option, just an option, then it does look like a stepping stone. And that leaves a bad taste in some Spurs fans' mouths, where we want to go into that window knowing that, yes, we've got players that want to fight for the badge, they want to fight for the club, and they're here permanently. They're here to see. We don't want to be in an option where we've actually just built this club, this player up for Bayern Munich to become a legend, or we've even built this player up where other clubs could swoop in, and we've got to fight other clubs in the summer for his signature, because that is a possibility that he does really well here, and then in the summer he's still up for sale. Then what? Then we have to fight the likes of Arsenal off still. We still have to fight the likes of Chelsea and other clubs in Europe as well. So it's so many question marks still floating about. The clubs still have a lot to do in terms of these last few hours of the window. The fact they've left it so late still is a concern, in my opinion, in my humble opinion. So I don't know. What's your thoughts, Johnny, man? Just going on the back of that.
So I think you covered it. Look, the thing is, he's a massive improvement. Why did he look? He spoke to Arsenal, he spoke to Chelsea, he spoke to Man U. I think Spurs is the only project, whatever you want to call it, where I think he's guaranteed game time. Even if Johnson was fit, he's an improvement. Even if Timo is fit, he's an improvement. I know he's raw, but raw means unpredictable. And that's what I love about Tel. He's got the pace. He dribbles. He's going to draw fouls. He's going to win free kicks. Quite who's going to take them, I'm not sure. Hopefully Pedro Porro's on the pitch if Maddison isn't. I'd love to see this deal done as a permanent. But I think if we can get an option and an agreed price, because obviously we've still got money that Bayern owe us, and I'm sure they would prefer to exchange a player than giving us cash. I think it works for both sides. The question is, does it work for Tel? He's stated that he wants to become a legend at Bayern Munich. Going to Spurs, who are sat 14th, is it? Well, I forgot where we are now. Are we 14th, Ash?
Dizzying Heights are 14th, I can tell you.
I've always got a nosebleed. Yeah. So we're saying the dizzying heights of 14th. Look, the thing is, he can sell us. We can sell him the Europa League. He needs to be in the squad. Otherwise, it's going to be laughable if he's not included in that. And
Johnny, on that point, I hope you don't mind me asking you. We had that discussion about an hour ago. I mean, how much are they going to have to flex their way in regards to that squad? Because the reality is, when you're looking at the fact of what Spurs are going to have to do from a registration perspective, they've obviously had this situation with Kinski and Vicario they're going to have to maybe decide upon. They've got the situation over now, Kevin Danso coming in, Tell coming in. How do you expect them to kind of navigate that around with relation to how their squad will work for you? How will they navigate that for you?
I think they need to drop Kinski. I know that sounds absolutely nuts, but I mean, only obviously if Vicario is going to be back, and Brandon Austin has to be the person that that steps into the fold. I think that's the only thing that you can do. I'll be honest. How can you take anyone else out of the equation? I'm not sure who else. Who are you going to take out?
It's a really tricky. I mean, I'd say Werner. Maybe you'd argue Werner maybe comes out.
Oh, sorry, Werner. Sorry, yeah, but you can only register. What did they say? Three new players.
Yep, that's right. That's right.
So listen, it's a really tricky one. It's a really tricky one. I think you can't leave him out. No, there's not a chance you can leave him out. But the three new players, it's got to be. I'm sorry, I think it's got to have to be Spence is included, Tell, and Dancer. I think it's got to be the three. I'm sorry for Kinski. I mean, he's done well since he's been here, but who else? If we have another breakdown centre back, we're going to need Dancer. We cannot afford to leave Spence out. For obvious reasons, as we've all seen in the last 3 or 4 games or last couple of months. And we can't leave Tell out. So that, for me, if you can only register 3 new players, those will be my 3. Unfortunately.
Yeah. On that point, Johnny, would you agree, Ash, would those be the 3 that you'd also change, or do you think you'd have any deviation away from that? Because this will be, maybe you'd argue, a bit of a tricky choice for Ange, because whoever is going to drop out from that squad, he's going to have to really manage that situation, isn't he? Because with Werner, for example, he's publicly criticised him, just to be very, very clear. And with certain other players, there may be an expectancy to be in that squad. So how do you see, back to Johnny's point, that going down for you? How do you see them managing that situation?
Yeah, well, to be honest with you, Werner's been linked away from Spurs anyway, hasn't he not? Has he not been a link to an American club? I think it's the Bulls.
He has been a link to the MLS. He's also been linked to Napoli. I mean, the problem is now, at the moment, Ash, he just wouldn't complete a medical. That's the problem. He would not complete a medical at the moment because of the injury he's got.
Yeah, that's an option, obviously, that has been explored. But I would think they've had words. If he's said it publicly, then behind closed doors, I'm pretty sure they've come to some type of agreement where maybe he's not in his plans moving forward. So it's one loan for another loan, from what I see or from what I understand. So if Werner hasn't been producing, and he has spoken about the senior players letting them down, I'd assume he's talking about Werner, and so that's a straight swap, in my opinion. So Tell has to come in and take his place, and then going forwards, obviously Kinski will miss out because Vicario will be coming in, unless he's saying Kinski's my new number 1. I would assume that he has to go. Forster, obviously, I don't think he's going to have any future plans moving forward. So I know he's a part of the club train homegrown quota, so we can't really leave him out in terms of Europa.
Yeah, I was just going to say it'd be less of an issue, Ash, if Ange hadn't done this ridiculous thing of leaving Spence out. We would be having a different conversation, because then we would be able to, without any problem, bring in the 3 that you're allowed, which would be Kinski, Tell, and Danso. Yeah,
but it wasn't the club train was the issue, wasn't it? I think that's why I forced.
No, I'm talking about for Europa League. You can only bring in 3 new players for the knockout phase. So
yeah, of course.
Yeah, so that's.
Yeah, I think that's where, again, there's going to have to be a decision made there in how they navigate that, because this is the thing, isn't it, about the squad? I mean, there's been this suggestion that, Spurs need more players, and they do need more players, don't get us wrong, but I think Tottenham are going to have to find a way to navigate how they are going to manage their squad options in regards to, finding a way to bring in the likes of Dan, so bring in the likes of Tell. It's all very well just wanting to bring these players in. The reality is, it isn't just as easy as that. And obviously where we are right now, is both clubs are still negotiating how they're going to make this work. I can tell you that Mathys is still on that plane to Tottenham. We are led to believe that he was going to be flying to Farnborough, but that might not be the case. But I can 100% tell you that the player is en route to Tottenham. He will undergo a medical, and it will then be down to the fact of Tottenham then trying to work with regards to Bayern as to how that will work. But I can tell in the last couple of seconds, we are getting images through here, which we'll try and share to you. Deadline day, Mathys has arrived now at Tottenham Hotspur's training ground. We're going to bring that in a second to you, but I can tell you, and we'll make that point, Ash, you said it, get him locked up and don't let him out, right, Ash, for sure?
Yeah, don't let him out.
Definitely. I think we've learned from mistakes before. I remember the Basuma deal, like no one knew about that, and he was like locked up in Spurs' lodge. So yeah, I think they've done the right thing here. They probably had their cars surrounding his cars straight into the headquarters, and hopefully he's getting his medical done as we speak. And I prefer it sometimes when there's not too much information leaks that other clubs don't know what's going on. They're in the dark, and before you know it, that player is announced. It was interesting, just going back to Danso, that he had been playing over here in England, and he had been a part of Reading's setup, and then after Reading he went to MK Don, so he had some experience of English football, and also he could be considered as homegrown. Am I right by saying that? Because he had spent some time over here in England.
He's born in Austria. I mean, he came over here. Ghanaian parents came over here at the age of 6.
That's right.
And then played for Milton Keynes as under 17s. So
yeah, so if I'm right, then he could be considered as homegrown, even though he's born, of course, in another country. He could still be considered as homegrown as long as you've had a certain amount of years and played in a certain amount of minutes in another.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the club, when they were recruiting, must have considered that as well. Once they were trying to buy him as well. So yeah, moving forward, I think that would be their strategy, looking at if we were, and it's a big question mark, if we are to either win an FA Cup, because if we win an FA Cup, that would qualify us into Europe as well. That could help our squad building in terms of Europe. But equally, if we won a Europa League and we won that competition, that would also qualify us for Champions League as well. So in terms of squad building, Danso would be included in terms of our homegrown quota as well. Just moving forward. But yeah, like, we need to get the job done regardless, get those players in, and hopefully they can help us push up. Now that Dragusin is looking like he's going to be out for the rest of the season, the fact that we've got this guy in, hopefully he can have a direct impact on the way we play. And I'm also expecting Danso to be technically slightly better, or an upgrade on Dragusin at playing out from the back. And that's going to help us as well when we're trying to do our press, when we're trying to work on our high press. He can help us from playing out from the back. I'm
just a bit worried that I'd rather he went to a hospital for his medical test than he went to Tottenham.
Well, I mean, I think so. Just be very, very clear. He has arrived at Hotspur way. There is confirmation, courtesy, I believe, of Instagram there, that Mathys is at the Tottenham Hotspur training ground, as Ash has to blink twice to realise that is the case. He is there. He has located in, and it's a case of locking those doors now, Ash, as we've said, getting those pillows set on the bed and not letting him out until he's completed that medical and signed the paperwork. Right, Ash? I'm sure you'll agree.
Yeah. Very, very, very relieved there. But still, like I said to you before, I just need them to hold up the shirt.
Who's that in the bushes? With a car already on the other side of the bush. Yeah,
no, honestly, not William again. Not William again. Please, not again to us.
Some of our younger viewers won't know about the whole William debacle. Do you know what I mean? They wouldn't have been through that. So I think that's why we're still
do we want to talk them through what happened there? Do they need to know what happened there? Should we put them through that?
First of all, they'd sign William, and William said, I just need to go to the toilet. And he went to the toilet, straight out the window, out the door, and jumped in the car and went and signed for Chelsea.
I don't know if the kids watch this film, right? But it's called Shawshank Redemption. Shawshank Redemption. They were looking for William Dafoe, and he was a prisoner. They went into the toilet to see if he was there in the toilet inside his prison cell, and there was like a poster. They ripped open a poster. They looked at the toilet, and he had broken free. And there was a massive tunnel, and that's basically what William did. He literally jumped in a cab straight into Chelsea's training ground, where Mourinho was waiting for, and the rest is history. So that is the image I have in my head. But yeah, listen, it's looking like it's going to plan. I'm hoping there's no hijack, and
yeah,
he can.
I do agree. I totally agree. It looks like it is going to plan. So, like I say, where we are right now, I think from everyone's sake, depending on how this next few minutes goes, we may look to conclude, we may look to continue. We'll see. But just be very, very clear on where we are right now as things stand. Tottenham are closing in on that move for. And I'm being told it might be wrong in my pronunciation. Mathys Tell, maybe I'm saying it rather than Matthias. Mathys Tell. Tell me if it isn't correct. Mathys Tell Spurs are closing on. As things stand at the moment, he has arrived. He has arrived at the Tottenham Hotspur training ground, where he will undergo a medical and he will agree personal terms with the football club. We understand that Daniel Levy personally convinced the player to come to Tottenham. He also, alongside him, and Postecoglou delivered an Ange call. The Ange Riz, some are saying, suggesting. Ange got on the phone, he got on the blower, and he convinced him that his project should be at Tottenham and nowhere else. Again, we'll bring that point into the show that he had interest, and he had talks with Arsenal, with Chelsea, but with Manchester United. But Mathys Tell, I'm going there again. Mathys Tell believes Tottenham are his home for what could be the next 6 months. It could be more, in what is a dramatic turn on this deadline day, where I think many going into this were not expecting Tottenham to land a forward. I think the general consensus was very, very hard to get a forward of maybe the potential quality and caliber that he is. And I think, again, we made that point actually at the start of the show, that if Tottenham can find a forward for Ange Postecoglou, they'd be only giving him really what they should have given him at the start of the window. And again, we look at, I know, Ash, you're very much a lot about the kind of stats behind a player, the data, what he's done in the past. I mean, again, we made this point. When you look at that record of the 22-23 season, which is where I think many out there really took an eye on Mathys as a player, and this is courtesy of Sky Sports on the map. You know, scored 12 goals, 6 assists, 73 shots, only 9 starts in that. So you've got to look at that. Only 9 starts, scored 12 goals, 51 substitute appearances. Is it just a case where you feel, again, Ash, that the more game time this guy is given over time, we could hopefully see some real benefit here in terms of the goods he can put out?
Yeah, I mean, look, the only caveat we could say to this one, and obviously this season he hasn't done as well as the 22-23 season, is that with those players he's playing with, do they give him more of a platform to express himself when you're playing with quality players? And then also when you're playing against the opposition that you're playing against week in, week out, do they give you more time on the ball? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe he's playing against more low blocks. So that's actually playing into the narrative that we do need this player, because he can unlock low blocks in space. He can be a menace as well. When teams do like to come at us, we're going to be playing the likes of Manchester United, that they're not going to sit in a low block. They're going to come at us at some point. Can we see the best of Mathys Tell against them? When we're playing Ipswich, when they're in a slightly lower block, can he beat his man 1v1 and get across into the box, get to the byline, do a little cut back? We have seen that being done at Bayern Munich. When we're playing Man City, of course, because we have to play Man City again. When they are trying to have that high line and they're having a lot of possession, can Mathys Tell, can he exploit that space in behind and do damage again? I think he can. We're going to be playing Liverpool, of course, on Thursday. Now, are Liverpool thinking twice? You know, they've got Bradley obviously playing fullback. I know that Trent's not going to be available for that game. Can we exploit that and get it behind him? So these are the type of things I'm looking at. All of a sudden, that cup semi-final at Anfield's looking slightly different now. We've got a new player, someone that's got a bit about him. We've spoken about the 1v1. I've spoken about his aerial threat, which is really strong for a winger, for an attacking player. He's like one of the best players in Europe's top 5 leagues in terms of aerial ability. That's something we need to really look at. Get those balls into the box. He can be a threat. And then, as I said before, his power on his weaker foot, left foot, right foot, is something to be noted on. But yeah, most people will look at it. Maybe some rivals now, they will probably say, he scored no goals, Ash. Like, what's he doing? What's he done this season, though? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
not
That might be an argument. When you look at those stats for this season, just to be clear, 8 games played, 1 chance created, 1 assist, 3 shots on targets, 119 passes. I mean, just to come back on that point there, I mean, I'll come to you, Johnny. How concerning would this season's stats be? And does that feed into anything that would be of a concern to Spurs fans out there? Or is it just purely down to a lack of game time that the stats aren't that impressive?
No, listen, look, he's had 2 seasons of progression since he's come from Rennes. I think this season, new manager comes in. He's got his own ideas. He's got a lot of talent on both flanks. And you've got Harry Kane up front. So, you know, it's always going to be a tough ask for a 19-year-old. But, you know, when you look at last season, for example, you know, we're talking about flexibility. He played as a left winger 19 times, 3 goals, 3 assists. As a right winger, 7 times, 2 goals, 1 assist. And as a centre forward, 4 goals, 2 assists, 2 goals and 1 assist. He, given the opportunity, he is the type of player that Spurs desperately need. A player that's brave enough to take on his man and beat his man, draw the foul, cut inside. Do you know what I'm really looking forward to? I know I mentioned it earlier, but I'd love to see Jed Spence down on that left-hand side and Mathys Tel on that left-hand side. One, Spence trying to keep Salah back in his pocket. And imagine Tel down that side as well, giving both Liverpool players on that side a lot to think about. I think that could be a massive plus point in trying to keep Liverpool quiet down that side. I really do. And it's a big threat. It's a big threat for us. I think, you know, really, this is a player that Spurs have been crying out for. And should we get players back, or should we go down with injuries? I'd rather see someone like Mathys Tel play as a false 9 than Sonny, because Sonny's not the man for the job.
Yeah, I mean, this will be the thing, isn't it? We go back to, you got Ash coming in for us on that point there that Johnny's picking up on.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say that the interesting thing as well, a lot of people in the comments are talking about Jonathan David being free in the summer, and you know, maybe we should move from a bit earlier, and I think he's gonna stay this obviously this January window. But I look at Jonathan David, and if you're a stat padder, you'll be like, oh yeah, Jonathan David's scoring a bag of goals and maybe he's the better player. But then I'm looking at when I watch Jonathan David, I'm like, I'm not too sure. But then when I watch Tel, it's the other way around. I look at Tel and I'm like, that's a good player. And it's not always about looking at the stats, looking at those numbers, how much G&A he has, because that's what we do nowadays. We just look at the goals and assists. And if a player hasn't got, I don't know, 15 goals or 20 goals in the season, then he's no good. Or if he hasn't got 10 assists, then he's no good. But if you actually look at the player and you think, is he playing in his right position? Is he playing well? Is he actually just a good footballer? Then that should be something we should be looking at more than how many goals and how many assists has he scored. I know it's the proof in the pudding, and that's the metric that people measure most players at. But I personally like to look at the player and say, actually, what could we get more out of this player? Can the player improve around amongst different players? Can he start to link up differently? Do you know what I mean? So that's something I would look at. Jonathan David is a good player, but across the front line, can Jonathan David play in the left wing? Can he play in the right wing? is he only going to be in the forward line? Do you know what I mean? So
I'm a big
that's where-
fan. I'm a big fan of Joe. Listen, personally, I totally agree with you, Ash. A year ago, I had the same questions as you with him, but you know, he's still only 25. You know, he's progressed quite a lot this last year. You know, he's 2-footed, which is, you know, a big plus when you're coming towards and a defender's trying to work out which foot you're going to use. He can't force you onto your weaker foot because he's equally good. And his numbers, you know, he just keeps scoring goals. I think he's got something like 8 goals in 14 Champions League games. He just keeps scoring. You know, I thought like you, yeah, it's the goals, but can he do this? Can he do that? But this season, he's really proving to me with Lille that he is the real deal. And I'll be honest with you, I think all the top clubs will be in for him as a free transfer this summer. And I wish that we were one of them. I'd love to get him, him and Gomez as a double act, and throw in Tyler Diblin. Thank you very much. It would be a happy summer for me. But there's no chance of that because all the big clubs will be in for Gomez and David, and no doubt Diblin.
Do you think, though, Johnny, on that point, do you think by the fact that we can maybe offer these players a potential where they could play more regular first-team football, like we've given the likes of Gray with Bergvall, do you think that's why the likes of maybe Gomez or Diblin will maybe look at Tottenham and think they would give me an opportunity to get into the first team and fast-track that? Maybe they wouldn't get that elsewhere at the moment because the likes of Gray, for example, and Bergvall and Spence as well, whatever you think about Spence and how he got into the first team, those three now, you'd say arguably, are 3 names that can't be dropped. So do the players like the Gomez's, the Diblings out there and think, do you know what? I back myself. If I go to Tottenham and get given an opportunity, I'll stay in the team.
Yeah, I mean, look, Spurs are definitely a team that's giving chances to young players, whether it's forced or otherwise, you know. We have a youth project, you know, the Academy Youth Project, and then the players that we've been signing for the first team who are coming in much earlier than they should be. But, yeah, I think... you know, if you look at certain teams, for a young player, yeah, I'll go to the club, but what's the chance of me actually getting game time? At Spurs right now, you know, you're going to get game time. You're going to get minutes. I think it's imperative, though, moving forward, that we have to be in Europe. If you know, top players want to play in Europe, you know, I think they can accept the Europa League and the Champions League. I know they're not obviously on an equal par, but I think the Conference League just becomes a little trickier. So, you know, if we could somehow rescue our season, and I think the be-all and end-all this season is not the league, not the Carabao Cup, although I'd love to win it. For me, it's all about the Europa League. If you win the Europa League, and we can win it, we get our players back. You win the Europa League, you're seeded in the Champions League, your whole recruitment drive becomes completely different. The amount of money you're getting just for qualifying now with the new format, 8 games instead of 6, so on and so forth, which will mean that Daniel Levy will, well, most owners would get their checkbook out. But it would be a draw to attract the type of players that we're actually looking at, to get the Davids, the Gomez's and the Diblins, because I believe without it, you're sort of running uphill to achieve it. To be honest with you, I think it's very unlikely. There's better stories out there.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting one. Look, I think what we're going to do, just to kind of summarise where we are, we're coming back for more later on. We're going to summarise where we are in this transfer windows. We're just approaching 4 o'clock. Let's tell you where things are at as we are at this moment in time. And that is Tottenham Hotspur are closing in on the deadline day signing of Mathys Tel. It will mean for Tottenham they have achieved for Ange Postecoglou the striker that he wanted. And it will also mean that Spurs are in a position where he could be included in the Europa League, the Carabao Cup squad. And as I just say this to you, oh, God, we can't get a break on the show. We've had breaking news coming into us here. Breaking news coming in. I don't know how I'm going to feel about this, but I know enough about it. It's not news that I wanted to hear personally. that news is Tottenham Hotspur have resurrected their move for Axel Disasi, just to be clear. So just to be clear, that news coming to us here, Tottenham's bid to take Axel Disasi on loan has been resurrected, but it will still need final agreement from the player. That news coming to us via Matt Law at the Telegraph, just as we said we're going to go. I mean, how can we go? Just like Matt used to tell, lock him up, lock us up. We can't get out of here. I mean, crazy. Can I come to you, Ash, on that news? And again, making that very, very clear, Tottenham are reviving the deal for Axel Disasi, but crucially, it is still missing the player's approval. Give me your thoughts on that, Ash. And when Ash does finish, we'll ask Johnny to come on the back of that. Ash, your thoughts. Axel Disasi could be a Tottenham player at the end of this window. Where are we going? Where are we going? Please tell us your thoughts.
Why? Oh, man. Why?
That was proper Keenan and Kel, wasn't it, back in the day? Why are we doing it? Why?
Oh, man. Have you seen that meme where like there's everyone in the audience and they all slap their heads all at the same time? That's me right now. I've just slapped my head. I said, oh. And I said at the start of the show, I just don't understand the profiling of the player, the recruitment, what they see in this defender. Is it just a case of we need a body? And it's like Spurs do this to you. It's like, that's how I feel. Because we literally won a game Thursday. Then it was the news that we've got more players rejecting us. Then we win a game on Sunday. And then we got news that we're getting rejected for this player, or we're cooling interest in this player and that player. Then we get a Beyonce announcement. Then they pull that away. Then we get the news of Tell, we're happy again. And then now, we're Disasi. Once again, I'm like, oh, guys, please, no, why? Yeah, that's all I've got to say on it, Ricky. I haven't really got anything positive to say on it. It's not a player I would like, not someone I would be excited about. It's not something I would recruit if I was in the scouting team. But like we said at the start of the show, Langer has a list of players and then he's got the data to back it up. And so there must be some reputable data that he's looking at that player and thinking, yeah, we need to push back for it. And also, just to add, maybe because they resurrected Tell, they think they can resurrect this mummy over here. So yeah, maybe that's what it is. They're thinking, yeah, let's go again. We did one, let's go again on the other. That's the only logic I can get out of it, bro.
I'm not in the resurrection business, man. I mean, forget the resurrection. If you're going to bring anyone back from the dead, bring back Harry Kane. Disasi is not the guy.
Can I ask you, Johnny? Can you see any? I think this is really important. That we try. I mean, I'm going to try and because again, I've made my feelings clear on this. I can't quite understand or comprehend it. Every time I've seen him in a Chelsea shirt, it's been making a mistake. I've not seen any positive performance from him. Have you seen anything of Chelsea or him as a player to give you any understanding as to why Tottenham are going for this player now? Is it just a case that we are desperately worried about Radu Dragusin, who again, I will make this point, that we understand Radu Dragusin could miss the entirety of the rest of this season for Tottenham with quite a bad injury. He's meant to be seeing a specialist later on today, which is obviously why Spurs now are in a situation where they are desperately frantically searching to add another centre-back to Kevin Danto, who they brought in, of course, only a couple of days ago. What's your take on the fact that they are going for Disasi? Is that based on the fact there is simply no other players available at the moment?
Why do we look? What's the one thing that we need more than anything defensively? We need a left centre back, right? Not a right centre back. Look, we bought Disasi, right, who plays in the middle of a back three, and we've identified him to play on the right side of a four, which worries me because that's what we did with Dragusin. And then we slaughtered Dragusin because he's not playing the system he understands. We need a left centre-back. More than anything else, we needed a left back and a left centre-back 18 months ago. And here we are at the midnight hour, 4 transfer windows later, and we're buying a very average right-sided centre-back. I don't quite get it. He's played 6 games this season. You want to highlight he scored a goal. That's about all I can tell you. He's not for me, nor would he ever be for me, nor would he even have been on my radar. And I do not believe for 1 minute that they crunched the data and the data boys came out with that. Not a chance, right? If you crunch data, you find unknowns. I can't remember what they paid for him, about 40 million, 35, 40 million. They were had. That's all I can say. As you know, they don't want to get rid of João Felix. Why? Because he's an asset, but they're more than willing to get rid of Disasi, which tells you everything you need to know. It smells and it stinks of a last-minute desperate deal. The one thing I do know is from I just had another message about 15 minutes ago. Spurs are absolutely desperate to try and sell Tell an option. They're going to just do everything in their power.
They're not trying to sell him already. They're trying to Tell the option to sign. Just to be clear.
Correct. Clear. Yeah. They're desperate. They're really pushing strong to say, this is a project. We really see you as part of it. Whether or not he buys that or not, I don't know. As I said earlier in the show about 3 hours ago, it feels like 3 days ago, that he wants to become a Bayern Munich legend, and he can't be that at Spurs. So let's see. But not for me, this guy, not for me.
Yeah,
Alex
it's hard.
Diaz.
I mean, I'll be honest, I'm struggling to find it pressed for anybody really to give a positive view on why Disasi would be the right man for Tottenham. I think the reality is where we are right now is that clearly the club are massively concerned over the future of Dragoshin for this season, and therefore the club massively feel they're going to need a player. My worry is again what I find quite concerning about this, Ash. And again, we actually said this earlier about Tell at the time of him originally coming to the club and before we knew the news that Ange spoke to him, is that the fact of the matter is this player has pretty much over the last 48, 72 hours not given Tottenham the green light and still hasn't given Tottenham the green light. But by the fact we understood this morning, Tottenham were calling it off, and the fact they've now resurrected it, but it still needs a final agreement from the player. How worrying is that, Ash, that we're bringing a player into this situation where, number one, we're not his first choice. Number two, he hasn't even said yes to us. And number three, for those that are watching the show, they can see the stats out there. As Johnny said, 6 games played. He's had 365 minutes in that this season, 7 tackles, 2 fouls, 276 passes, 1 goal. I mean, look, it's hard to go off stats like this in terms of looking at a player as an offensive perspective, but can you understand where we're at now, Ash, that we desperately need a defender in? Is that, do you feel there's nobody else out there that can help us now? Is that where we're at?
I thought we would have gone for someone like a Hincapi or someone like that. I don't know if that's unrealistic.
That's my dream.
maybe that's what it is. Maybe I'm dreaming. But I thought because of the type of money we're offering Guehi, I said, slap that by Leverkusen. Surely they'll buy it at 55 million. 100%. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And add-ons as well. No, I'm just saying. 100%. So if we start throwing that money around, I don't know. Hato, I know Ajax, they're in desperate need of money. They're not in the best. Yeah, exactly. David Hanko. Even the player from Feyenoord, I forget his name, begins with a B. Boscoli, I think his name is. He's a left-sided centre back.
Yeah.
Sporting Lisbon. There's a left-sided centre back over there. They've got a young kid called Diamande. They've got another player. I forget everyone's names. There's so many players, but there's another guy out at Sporting Lisbon. We could look at left-sided centre back. We could potentially offer that 55 million to them. I don't understand the obsession with the Chelsea reject. Do you know what I mean?
How can you have 4 tackles? Ash, how can you win 4 tackles in 6 games in 365 minutes as a centre back? What are you doing? Are you like, I don't know. How do you get that?
I mean, if he was both-footed, left-sided and right-sided footed, I'd understand. But he's predominantly right-footed. It's not even any attributes that I could say, all right, cool. I can understand why we're looking at him. And there's so many players over Europe. And as you guys said before, how has the data led you to this? It's a nonsense, all in all. So I just, even long term, is it Is he even like a part of our long-term plans? Or are we gonna just people
Well,
are
again,
talking about
at the moment, I think the problem they've got is they're still at a point where they're trying to convince the player to come. Therefore, I mean, look, just to be very, very clear, if they get him done, it will be just a loan, which, again, it puts that point out there that they obviously are desperate in need of a body. That's all you can work out. I mean, I think we've said it here that you can't see any real uptake in this long term. I mean, again, I'll make that point again. I think many are also suggesting as well, he's cup tied in obviously both the cups. So you're in a situation where you might be able to bring him into the Europa League squad. In the latter stages, we might need to check, but he can't play in the FA Cup. He can't play in the League Cup. It just feels a bit of a desperation attempt now, Johnny, that we're in need of a defender. And this is quite frankly the one left on the shelf.
What I don't understand. Look, I'm missing something here, right? We've just brought in a player who I thought was going to replace Dragusin, and we've managed to last the whole season. I mean, unless they know something that we don't know about Romero, it's the only thing I can possibly think that is the case. I mean, all we heard from Ange is that he's a slow healer, whatever that may mean. But we've seen Archie Gray playing right centre back. We've even seen Jed Spence play right centre back. So I don't see why we should be buying a guy who attempted 7 tackles and made 60% of them successfully in 6 games. It stinks, actually. It stinks of like, here, I'm giving you a player. What's he going to do? Sit on the bench? When's he ever going to play? When's a player like that ever going to play?
I'm not sure. I mean, you look at our defence at the moment, they must have, again, concerns about Romero in terms of his comeback. Van der Ven obviously easing back gently. But then you've got Davies that can play there. You've obviously, as you've discussed, you've got Dan, so that can play there. I don't really see where Disasi fits in. But, it's a baffling one. I mean, again, I know there'll be many out there that whilst there's a delight that we're going to get, hopefully, Tell over the line from the forward option, I think this one, there isn't a logic to this one. I've got to be honest with you. I mean, again, unless there's something going on behind the scenes we don't know with regards to Van der Ven's fitness, with regards to Romero in general, it's really, really hard. Really, really hard. Again, there's a mainly argument that we need depth in the squad because Dragusin's out for the season. Also, we're being led to believe he can't play in Europe. We're here, Tony, a friend of the show, can't play in Europe, can't play in the League Cup, can't play, period. It is very hard. When you're seeing a link like this, you want to try and understand the logic in it. I know for many out there, of all the Chelsea players who've been linked with, it's the one player that Chelsea are happy to let go to us. And I'll make it clear earlier, we said that, João Felix, apparently Spurs showed a very big interest in this morning. Chelsea shut that down. They weren't interested in selling to Tottenham, João Felix, but they're more than happy to let Disasi come here, which I think pretty much sums up really that feeling. Go on, Ash, please.
They said they don't want to strengthen a rival. That's what they said when it came to Twisted Tales of Felix.
Yeah.
They said they looked at us as a rival, but all of a sudden, when it comes to Disasi, disaster, that's all right. We can have him.
Listen, it's a joke. Listen, it's a joke. Look, let's be serious here, right? Okay, we are that desperate as a fan base. We've got excited about getting Tell on loan, while Villa are signing Rashford, Asensio, and clubs are doing proper deals. We're in the midnight hour trying to get a loan over the line for a second-rate Chelsea reject.
Is it in any way, Johnny, a smoke screen, do you think? Anywhere a smoke screen?
I'd love it to be a smoke screen. I think, when you've got Chelsea fans messaging you saying, please take him, we'd be delighted. I mean, that's not, not reverse psychology. He's no good. He's no good. And it's as simple as that. And I don't want him at the club. If we've got ambition, that's not a signing you want.
We'll bring it back to that point we said earlier. The club were looking to bring Mark Gahey here. We understand Mark Gahey at the start of the morning was Tottenham hot.
Yeah.
It was understood to be Tottenham's top transfer target this morning. Spurs were led to put a bid in, just to be very, very clear, in the region of 55 million. That would go up to 70 million. And from what we understand, that bid was turned down. Palace weren't prepared to sell on the final day of this transfer window, and it meant Tottenham had to look at alternative options. What we understood this morning was that any move for Disasi was off the table. Tottenham had gone cold on it. They changed their mind, but the fact the player wouldn't give them a yes meant they're moving on. Subsequently, since then, Tottenham have again in this situation where they've resurrected the deal for Mathys. Tell has apparently said yes to them. He's been convinced by Daniel Levy. He's convinced by Ange Postecoglou. It's been a crazy, like I say, last 3.5 hours here on Last Word on Spurs. We're trying to rack our brains of it. Tell is currently, I can tell you, at the Tottenham Hotspur training ground at Hotspur Way. It's about half an hour away from here, I can tell you, where he's undergoing his Tottenham medical. And they'll be keeping an eye on him to make sure, as Ash said earlier, he don't jump out of the window and try any desperate attempt to get away. We understand he will be looking to complete that medical. He will then sign a deal with Tottenham. At the moment, what we're not too sure on that deal being signed is whether it will be a loan or a permanent deal. That is still to be decided. We are hearing different reports from different parts of the journalist world. You're hearing a lot from Germany that it will be a straight loan because the player is keen to become a Bayern legend. We're also hearing from a lot of the UK-based journalists here that Tottenham would love the deal to be a permanent one for Mathys. So again, it goes back to that point, what will Tottenham do? And in this last half an hour, that news we're bringing to you is that Tottenham are trying to revive that deal for Axel Disasi, which again, I made my feelings clear on Last Word on Spurs last night, wouldn't be a player that I'd want us to do. We understand from friend of the show, Sammy Mockbell, who tells us the player has been reluctant to move across London to join Tottenham. I mean, God, if you need any more alarm bells than that, Johnny, the player has got alarm. The player is reluctant to come and join Tottenham. What else do you mean now?
He doesn't want to come. We don't want him. Hello. What more do you need? How many alarm bells? Listen, red flags is a sea of red flags. Please, just don't bother signing anybody if you're going to bring us that.
Ronnie as well, yeah. The thing is as well, like we said 55 million for Gueye here, yeah. You say it's PR. Then I look at how we spent 12 million on Kinski, right? Is it 12 million Kinski?
That's all we spent. Yeah,
12 million Kinski. That's right. Yes.
And then on Danso, how much have we spent? How much?
Well, we got a loan. It's just
we've got a loan. We'll be paying around the region of 20 million in the summer.
Yeah.
We'll be committing to 20 million in the summer for Kevin Danso. Around that region, yes. It'll be around 20 million for Danso. Yes. Yeah, it will be.
So, all right, cool. So
probably over 5 years. Probably over 5 years as well. So not 20 million down.
I'm just trying to do the math. That's why I'm saying it out loud. I'm just trying to do out the math. I'm saying, all
10 million we worked out, Ash, that roughly there's how much he spent. He probably spending on the loan for Danso and Tell, and what he's had to pay up front for Kinski, because that deal again with the Czech club is going to be amortized over the period of his contract with a little bit higher amount paid up front, from what I believe.
I'm asking, is there really any money is there really any money for us to spend in this window?
Well, we haven't spent any, have we?
That's what
there will. I mean, I presume there will be some form of a loan fee for Mathys. There will be some form of loan fee for him that we're going to pay.
That's what Ash is saying. What Ash is saying
is what I'm trying to say.
It's all BS. We spent 10 million, and we're meant to believe that we're ready to drop the cash in the midnight hour for Gueye. Yeah, come on.
We've got the money, but are we willing to spend the money? Is what I'm asking. Like, do you know what I mean? In real life, and this is why I'm like, I know what we're doing.
We'll find out when the bid goes in for Disasi what the loan fees for that. It's crazy
over our eyes. That's all I'm saying, Ricky. That's all I'm doing here. So, I'm happy with Tell. Like, I am happy. I'm not trying to be like.
No, we're all happy. We're all happy.
I'm not trying to do that, but at the same time, I'm trying to call a spade here.
Yeah, of course.
I'm not trying to make people think like we need to know the truth of what's really going on. You know what I mean? On this transfer January, it doesn't look good for them. So they're trying to speed up things, make things.
We're all a positive aspect of bringing Tailwind. It feels like they're bringing it really down by bringing Disasi. I wonder how much difference there'll be in terms of the communication on those two pieces. I think I have to say this. I don't know if you guys agree. I think it's really hard to sell a fans a player that clearly, number one, has come from Chelsea. And number two, there's been this feeling that he doesn't want to join. I just wonder, whatever they do, I mean, we've seen this down the years, Johnny. You know, when they put the Tottenham shirt on, does it really matter? Or do you think there will be that feeling where he's going to have to prove us something wrong here? Because that's what I would say. You know, we've seen some really crazy transfers down the years. I think back to, I mean, remember Hossam Ghali where he threw the shirt down at the Tottenham Stadium? I'll go back to White Hart Lane, Hossam Ghali even. I mean, but can you, I mean, is there a way in which a player can win fans over with the nature of this where he clearly doesn't want to come, we're still resurrecting it? I mean, you're almost on the back foot before you start with this, Johnny, aren't you?
Yeah, well, listen, look, you know, when I think back to a player who's done the rounds and still got some love, I think it was William Gallas, probably. Played for Arsenal, played for Chelsea, and came here and did a job. Other than that, you know, I can't see how there's going to be any love for him at all. I think, you know, this club is like snakes and ladders. You know, you get on a high, and just as you get to the top, you're climbing up the ladder, you hit that snake and slide all the way back down. We've had it all season, whether it's, you know, beating Man United and then losing the next game, you know, beating Manchester City, then can't string a win together. You know, finding out we're in for Tell, then Tell's not coming. Then we win a game, and then we have more bad news. This morning we came in and we thought it was all over. And then we had the amazing, exciting news that Beyonce's back. And then we got Tell. And just as we were sort of starting to buzz on Tell, we get the Disasi news. So you never know what you're going to get. As we often say, supporting Spurs is what's the saying? Life is like a box of chocolates. You never know which one you're going to get. That's very much this club. And, you know, with 6.5 hours left of this transfer window, don't be surprised to be surprised.
I tell you what, I mean, if they don't get Tell over the line now and that Disasi deal goes ahead, then I tell you what, you're going to need more than Beyonce being cancelled to survive this. I don't know. It's interesting. I mean, Ash, do you see it getting done, Disasi? Do you think it will get done at this stage, given the fact that with the last 24, 48 hours, you know, the player seems to have made his perspective clear that he doesn't see Tottenham as being his option. We understand Aston Villa is where he's actually agreed personal terms with. But this is why I find it quite bizarre, Ash, that you're in a situation where the player has agreed personal terms with Villa, but yet Chelsea are not selling to Villa because it's to a direct rival. And you're in a situation where Tottenham have agreed a fee with Chelsea, but haven't agreed a fee with a player. You think in these days with the way football works that, I know, again, there's certain restrictions what you can and can't do. You think they go to the player firstly to kind of make sure he wants to come. Is it a bit bizarre that we've gone this route, which is obviously the route you should go, but normally we know a lot of deals are done behind the scenes and they've been agreed in advance. Are you surprised, Ash, by this?
Yeah, I feel like it's like we haven't moved with the times. Like last minute deals, sometimes they can backfire, sometimes they can go through, and sometimes, like at the moment, we're trying to do it the other way around. As you just said, we're trying to go to the club first and then the player afterwards. But we know that's not proved successful, because when we tried to do that with a certain player, we ended up losing out. And I think it was Diaz, I think we went for in January. And we tried to do it that way around and we lost out. And there's other players as well, if I remember rightly, that, you know, sometimes we've tried to go through the club and then the agents have notified the other club, the other buyer clubs, and then all of a sudden we've lost out on those targets. So it's like we're not learning those lessons. But I think Disasi thinks he's proper Chelsea, and he's doing Chelsea fans a favour, isn't it? Like, by not going to Tottenham.
I mean, honestly, it stinks. It stinks of Danjuma in defence. That, I mean, it's just like, he will give you a signing. He's going to be here for 3 months and leave. We don't need it. We don't need it. We really don't. I
don't really see how we're gonna continue with this. I mean, it's a bizarre one when you've got so many of the fans out there that can't see it and have made their feelings clear. I'm not saying that it's for a club to listen to the fans in terms of feelings on a signing, because they've got to go what they've got to go with, and they must just feel on this point, Johnny. They must just feel there is no options up. There's no other options out there. Otherwise, why would you keep pursuing something? You wouldn't keep pursuing something if there was better options out there. We clearly feel there is no other options out there, which is why we're going back to a player that has not given us the green light to accept. That's all you can think of, surely.
Well, listen, I don't mind. I don't mind a player if he's the player for the position that we need. And right at the beginning of this show, right at the beginning, Ash and I, and on previous shows over the last month, when I've been coming on the Friday, we've all spoken about the one position that we've needed for the last 18 months, and that is a left-sided centre-back. So why 4 transfer windows with all the data? Johan Lang, what are you doing? Wake up, right? We need a left-sided centre-back. And what have you given us? You're giving us Disasi, who's played 6 games. He's a right-sided centre-back, not even a good one, in my opinion. It's farcical. If you were telling me we're linked for a loan for a left-sided centre-back, no problem. Even if it was sort of equivalent, because, yes, if needs must and we have to play a player, let it be the right position that we need. Because we've got cover. We've got cover. If Ben Davies breaks down again, and if Ben Davies and Mickey van der Ven break down at any stage, what are we going to do? Is Archie Gray going to play? Huh?
Essentially, what we've done, we sold Davison Sanchez, right?
Yeah.
Who none of the fans liked. Who actually is a left side.
Yeah, who can play this system as a high line. He's useless at the low block, but the high line, his recovery pace is absolutely perfect. I said the same, Ash. Yeah.
And now you're looking to buy a player who's not got any attributes that we need. He's not fast. Hasn't got a left foot.
You couldn't make it up, could you? It's like
also, plays in either central centre back or plays as the right side of centre back, because the previous team he used to play for
we ain't playing 3 at the back.
We're not playing 3 at the back.
I mean, this is an interesting concept as well, though. You're touching upon there about the formation. I mean, this is why I think a lot of people out there, we touched upon earlier about the logic of data, the data-driven approach. I think many are struggling to understand that logic of the data, because it's really, really hard to try and understand in regards to this potential signing where it does come from. I mean, the thing is that Spurs, again, I'll make that point, there are deep, deep concerns inside the football club that Radu Dragusin could be missing the remainder of the season. So when you're looking at Tottenham centre-back options, just to be very, very clear, you'd say who can play centre-back? Well, they have got that can play centre-back. Archie Gray's played there. No, it's not his natural position, but he's played there ever so well. You've got Ben Davies that can play there. You've got, dare I say, you've also got, of course, if you had to, you've got Basuma that can play there. You've got Romero, Van der Ven coming back. You've got at least 5 that are there then, haven't you? You've got, obviously, I'm looking at Gray being 1. You're looking at Ben being 2. You're looking at Mickey and obviously Christian being 3 and 4. And I just wonder, do you feel on that basis, guys? I mean, Johnny, numerically, is he required? Or is it just the fact that we're concerned about the injuries that we've had this season? We are protecting ourselves doubly, triply, and that's before you bring Dan into that as well, that squad list there. That's why they are looking at bringing, obviously, him in as well, just to bring more backup if needed. He might just be a bench option, Johnny. He might just be to sit on the bench. And that's maybe why, again, maybe it's wrong for me to hypothesize, if I can say it. Is that why maybe they're thinking they are going for Disasi and why he isn't accepting? Because he's not guaranteed first-team football, but what he's guaranteed is more of a chance of appearing off the bench than what he'd be appearing off Enzo Maresca's bench at the moment.
Yeah, maybe. Listen, look, I think we'd needed probably another 4 centre-backs, judging by what the medical team were doing on the weekend. I still don't understand. I've had lots of conversations with him. I think people got the wrong gist of what I was saying. When Dragusin went down on the weekend, on Thursday, when he was down on the ground, he was down there for 3 minutes. They should have made the substitution then. But to bring him off the pitch and then to make him do, when he's holding his knee, he's got his hand up in the air, the players have all surrounded him. They take him off the pitch and make him do squat jumps, right? Onto the knee. Not 1, not 2, not 3. Keep doing squat jumps. And I'm going, what the hell is going on? Right? Is this the medical team? Why would you do that? Why would you do that? And then he goes back on to save time so we can make a substitution. Why didn't we make a substitution before? They got earpieces to register to the bench to make the substitutions. You know, I question the medical team. The fact that this club is so poorly run that we're still in the halfway through the season advertising for medical team on LinkedIn. That shows you where this club's at. You know, everything's amateur hour. You know, it's just a long line, a long list, should I say, of things that aren't run properly, not professionally. And that was another incident on the side of the pitch yesterday, the other day, which got me really mad. And I'm not surprised that he's ended up with a long-term injury. It reminded me a lot of Bentancur, the treatment Bentancur had against Leicester when he had his hand up, and Harry Kane came over and said, look, I think something's gone. And they let him go off the pitch, let him come back on the pitch, and even made him walk off the pitch and down the tunnel to find out he had a serious injury. But that said, this is absolute nonsense. It really is a nonsense signing. I hope there's absolutely no truth to it, because if it is true, we're going to have Tell, who said he didn't want to come, who's now coming on loan because nothing else is going on, and we're going to get him. Yeah, I can't even say his name. I don't even want to say his name.
Axel Disasi.
Who doesn't want to come.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Come
on. Look, let's discuss where we are at the moment, and we'll see. Every time I go for a roundup, something normally happens. So let's do another roundup and see where we are at the moment. Look, we are approaching at the moment. We're 4:30, just past 4:30 UK time, 4:35. I gotta say, there's over 20,000 of you that are watching Last Word on Spurs. Thank you so much for all your incredible support for the show. I must just say, we're joined by the wonderful Ash Mathys at the Spurs Kings. Please go and check out Spurs Kings. Wonderful coverage across YouTube. We've got him, we've got Ash, and we've got his brother Miles always appearing. So please go and check these guys out. We're joined by Johnny Hammy. John, you can find him on obviously his Instagram, his Twitter there. Johnny H3232 on Twitter. God, it's a tongue twister. And Talking Tottenham 1882 on Instagram. You can check him out on Football Inc. as well. Look, bringing you the news at the top of the hour where Tottenham are. We understand Spurs are closing in on the signing of Matt Tell from Bayern Munich. Where we are with regards to if it's a perm or a loan is still yet to be seen. We can tell you he is currently at Hotspur Way. He is undergoing a medical, agreeing personal terms with the football club. He was convinced to make the trip down to Hotspur Way after speaking to Daniel Levy and Ange Postecoglou personally. We can tell you Tell had talks with Arsenal, Chelsea, Manchester United, and in the end decided Tottenham was the right home for him. He's on his way. He's coming. We're waiting to find out the later details on the structure of that agreement, and we'll get more information on that. We also understand, as things stand at the moment, in addition to that, Tottenham are pushing hard and are continuing to push for the loan signing of Axel Disasi from Chelsea. That will let to leave is going to be a straight loan. There is no option to buy on that deal. Spurs, just to be very, very clear, the reason why we understand they are looking to do the deal for Disasi is because there is genuine concerns and fears that Radu Dragusin is going to miss the rest of the season with injury. We're waiting on more of that. He's going to be seen by a specialist. Oh, guys, I tell you. Listen,
do we know what Tell's having for lunch? I mean, we're getting a step-by-step report. I mean, hopefully he's having a nice lunch. They'll show him the Spurs hotel, probably put him up in the Maurizio Pochettino suite, and hopefully that we can sweet talk him into signing on the dotted line and maybe giving us an option. I'd love an option. What
I'd love to know is whether it's changed your score rating on this window when you woke up to where it is now. I mean, wonder, Ash, for you, now you're hearing the news that they're going to potentially get Tell over the line and they're signing another defender. And so, no, it's not the defender that we all want. Would your score rating have changed, Ash, from what it was this morning to what it was now?
Oh, yeah. No, 100% it would change. But, I mean, would it be that much where I'm like, oh, this is an amazing window? No. I'm not going that far. But, yeah, it would definitely have improved from the start of the window because I had no hope, literally. no hope whatsoever. I thought we weren't going to sign anyone, regardless of when the Disasi said no. I was like, yeah, all right. I don't think we're getting anyone now. And then Tel had already said no to us. And then shortly after Tel, it was tomorrow before that. So it was like 3 no's on a trot. I don't know if that was possible. I didn't even know if we could do that. I didn't even know.
Listen, we're breaking all records. We're breaking all records.
Yeah.
We're breaking all records.
Number. What's your number, Ad? Give us the mark out of 10. Come on, I'm interested to see your number here.
My mark out of 10. It's going to sound negative if I say my mark out of 10.
Well, you got to give what you feel, right? I'll give you mine.
I prefer not to say, man. If I speak, I'm in big trouble. I mean, big
listen, I don't care. Give it out. Right.
I don't know. If it was me, if it was, I'll be honest. If you were saying to me that we're going to get Tel in before like say start of the window, if it was early January, I would have given you a fairly decent mark. If you said to me we're going to get in a defender and attacker, I would have given it maybe I would probably have given it a 6 out of 10, right? If it was at the start of the window. Where we are now, that since that point, we've had about 3 or 4 league games that have taken place. Spurs currently find themselves 14th in the Premier League. Just for me, I'm absolutely convinced if Tel was here and Danso was here, not that I've seen either of them play, I fail to believe we've given Ange a little bit more rotation and a little bit more freshness in the squad. I refuse to believe that we lose at home to Leicester. I refuse to believe that we lose at home to I refuse to believe that we lose away to Everton. I don't think Tottenham are 14th in the league. I don't. That's just my opinion. And I really think, if you said to me, we're going to get Danso in, we're going to get, of course, Tel in, I would have probably given it a halfway 5 out of 10. Still could have done more, need to do more, still not enough. But reality is it's very hard in January to get players through the door. And what you could argue is that Tel coming from Bayern Munich, experience of playing in the Champions League, experience of being around good players, that will be a benefit. And he's a good lad from what we understand as well. A very good egg that just wants to play football. Kevin Danso, a player that clearly wants to be here as well. I think that's why I would be very much qualified to say a 5 out of 10. I think where that number lowers for me is the fact you've had the whole window to get these deals done. And you've left it right until the end of January where we've sacrificed a lot of the league games in between, which is what brings my score rating down to maybe a 4 or a 3 because it should have been done so much earlier. And again, that's where I'm at. I mean, Ash, can you match that? Would you say the same for you in terms of that rating?
Cool,
yeah, I'd say about 5 because it was about a 4 for me before that. 4, it was like a 4 out of 10. The only reason why I give it a 5 and you give it a grace period, a grace in like a little saving period, is because you do understand that January typically it's not a busy window. Do you know what I mean? Last season, we were the only team to do business, and we bought in Jagushin. No one else brought anyone in. But obviously, I bake into the context that there was PSR and FFP issues hanging around a lot of clubs. They weren't sure how to react to it. And so we were in a healthy position and we were able to act on it. Seasons before that, we've always acted in January transfer window. I think maybe, obviously, when Poch was around, that was a time when we didn't. But more time in the January window, we always get at least a player. We've managed to get 2. But again, as Ricky's already said, we've wasted the whole window. And we know we've had these issues since November, we've had issues with not just our first team, like bench rotations as well. So on that part, on the club's part, I'm not even talking about Ange, just on the actual club itself, it's been poor. It's been poor. And I'm like, right, like Lange, what is your job? You knew from November, like what you'll be looking for, what to do, what you needed to move. When you look at Aston Villa got Marlon in fairly quickly. He was playing on the weekend, and there was no way they started their transfer window in January and were like, what should we do now? I know, let's go for Marlon. You know, that was done properly, and he was looked at possibly in November. They're probably having discussions in December. And then when it came to January, it was a smooth transition and the clubs were able to do business easily. Us now, obviously, Kinski, they said, we've had to move that signing forward from the summer to January. And so that doesn't even look like a plan for this January. If you've had to move a plan forward from summer and you were hoping that would be a summer signing, and you've had to move it into January, then you're starting to think, okay, so then what was the January plan? If that was the summer plan, what was the January plan? And then why is it taking you so long to act on that January plan?
Yep.
Because we've only just got that January planning, and so that signing was just made the other day.
Yeah, I do agree. I do agree. Yeah, listen, guys, I think from our perspective at the moment, we are going to probably leave it there for now. Myself, Johnny, and Ash are back with Anthony Costa. God, that could be quite lively. We're back with you for 6:30. That would be quite lively. But as things stand at the moment, just to be clear, like we're saying, Tottenham Hotspur at the moment are closing in on the signing of Mathys Tel. That will be obviously at the moment on loan. We understand Spurs are negotiating now with regards to Bayern Munich, how that's going to plan out in relation to whether it's a loan or a permanent deal. They are also at the moment closing in on the signing of Axel Disasi. We will see where that takes us. I want to say again, there's over, like I say, there's 20,000 people that are currently watching this stream live. The only reason I'm stopping is I've got to just make sure my kids and my wife are all right down there and no one's killed each other. It's very quiet. It's very, very quiet.
It was one of Ricky's quick 1 hour streams. We'll just do a quick 1 hour, 1 to 2. You know, I mean, we were filling out with Beyonce. It was getting that desperate at one stage. I'll just say, right, listen, honestly and truthfully,
Please, Johnny.
when you break this down, there's no option with Tel, so it's just a loan. So we got no idea what's going on with that, and we've got a centre back that was a last minute deal. So for me, you know, it's a 4 because we've managed to get Tel in on loan. Had we got him on a permanent, I would have given it a 6.5 on that basis, but I've moved it up to a 4. This morning, it was probably a 2.
Can I just say on that point, I've got to get Ash's take on this very quickly. Jamie Carragher has been speaking. I mean, this is the same Jamie Carragher that said, well, before the Brentford game, if they can see less than 3, I'll be surprised. Jamie Carragher just had his say on this Mathys Tel transfer, and he has said on this potential deal that it doesn't look like the lad had too many options. To be fair to the lad, if Arsenal, Man United were there for you, you'd probably pick those clubs ahead of Tottenham. I can understand that. The fact that Tottenham are getting him on loan now, I think that's a good deal for both the teams. He can get a look at Tottenham. Tottenham get a good look at him. A young player with potential. He hasn't played too much football at Bayern Munich. If he settles in well at Tottenham, he'll definitely get a lot of chances there. They create chances. They score goals. They are one of the most exciting teams in the league. So I think this move works for the player and the club. He obviously fell out of favour at Bayern Munich. He didn't get the minutes he would have liked. So this works for everybody. What's your take on that for you, Ash? Do you agree with Jamie Carragher there? It's try before you buy, because we are understanding, again, I'll make that point, that Spurs are looking at possibilities of making this a permanent deal.
Yeah, as we said before, he is very much raw. He's 19. So it is a gamble, whatever way you look at it. And so try before you buy. It would have been nice to have the option, though, behind that, because the narrative will be that if he does do well, we've basically advertised him to the whole of the league, or the whole of the top 6 and the whole of Europe. And even Bayern Munich can just say, yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for building him his confidence up. We'll take him now. Do you know what I mean? And so that's where some of the, some of the caveats, some of the negative feedback might come in. But I think, yeah, on the flip side, getting him in, he's an upgrade on all the wing positions we have at the moment. As I said before earlier, he's a goal threat, someone that can be fretful 1v1. He can cross the ball as well, aerial threat, link-up play is decent. And so what more could you want this late in the window? There's no other option, in my opinion. He's the best option. We wanted him when he rejected us in the first place, and now we've got him. So I'm happy.
100%.
Okay. And on that point, guys, before we look to close, the final question I'll ask you both, as we discussed our score rating as to where we would feel this window is at, how confident are we by the time we log back on in about an hour's time, these deals are still alive? What do you think? Ash, when we come back, do you think they'll be done? Or do you think they'll be close to being done? What's your take on Disasi? And so we know what you'd probably want to happen, like all of us. What do you think?
No. Come on, we've been there before, Ricks. Come on, man. Come on. PR. We are PR. It's tough. It's going to be like 10:59. 10:59, and then he will be announced.
Oh,
Or
you're
10
taking us
what
right up
was
to
it
the
last time?
deadline.
What was it last time? 10:30 or 10:40 last time?
Yeah.
Oh, come
Yeah.
on, you know what we do. They like to make us wait, suspense, like we don't hear anything. Oh, I don't know what's going on here. And then all of a sudden, we make it to the media like, oh my days, Levy's done it again. We've done it again. Come on.
They'll be writing the script. They'll be writing the script now for Mathys Tell. The
announcement,
PR
the announcement,
yeah,
right?
I always wanted Spurs. The rumors aren't true. I just needed to speak to my family. Once I spoke to Harry, I knew this was the only club for me. Right? The script that's coming. Right? We all know the script. They'll be doing the video between now and the next 5 hours. Bit of editing, sit down in front of the screen, the interview, and then we'll have Johan Lange tomorrow morning saying what a wonderful window it was. One of the most difficult windows it was to sign a player. You buy it if you want to buy a ticket to that story, then great. But as the one thing is, the one positive here is Mathys Tell is the player that we desperately needed down on that flank. He's dribbling, he's crossing, and I can't wait to see him link up with Jed Spence, as I said earlier.
Totally agree. Listen, we're fairly confident nothing's going to really change. Then what we're going to do, we're going to close the show there. Like I say, plan is we are going to reconvene around. We've got 6:30. We've got Anthony Costa coming your way with Ash and Johnny that are taking you in. These guys are going to have a little bit of a break. We've got Billy T, the legend Billy T's coming on. George Achilles coming back. Patrick Tyrant's coming on. And just to let you know, in terms of closing our window tonight, we've got Jason McGovern alongside me. We've got Russ Williams, broadcaster, journalist, and we've got Paul O'Keefe from 9 p.m. We are using our muscles. We're using our squad. We're hoping no one's going to drop a hammy. I'll ask you all now. There's over 20,000 that are watching this show live right now. I'd ask if you can, please like and subscribe to Johnny's content that he provides for, obviously, of course, across Instagram, on X. I'd ask the same as well for Ash Massey over at the Spurs Kings. Those guys do so much for us there. Please subscribe to Ash at Spurs Kings TV. Please like and subscribe to Last Word on Spurs. We ain't finished yet. We are just getting going in terms of this transfer window. Will Tottenham get over the line in these next 5 to 6 hours of signing of Mathys Tell? Will they get Disasi over the line despite a lot of frustration as to whether he will be a Tottenham player? Last Word on Spurs. We'll be keeping you posted. We'll be keeping you guided throughout it all. We are reconvening with you soon. Guys, from us all at Last Word on Spurs, we'll see you in about an hour and a half. As always, please keep safe, keep well. We'll see you back here soon.